All right, and we are back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Redline Motorsport Coach Dave Academy sponsored Suzuka 12-hour event. My name is Ryan Gill, and I am here with Commentary Team 2 to bring you all the exciting racing from around the 12-hour race. But of course, I am not alone today. I have with me Fabian Schmidberger.
Hello guys, here right from Germany, Ingolstadt here, and I'm very excited to take over this commentary together with Ryan and also together with Nick today. So Nick Setnik, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, Fabian and Ryan, reporting in from the West Coast. Just happy to be here. We're at 12 hours of Suzuka, just going into about to the second quarter of this race. And I mean, the first couple of hours we have seen amazing racing so far. Kevin Siclari, obviously at the top of the board there, has been just holding it down. Just maintaining amazing gaps with the other cars that are on the track. Obviously, we have incredible competition behind that team. Yeah, Ryan, what are you taking from the first bit of this race? What do you want to see going into this into the second quarter here?
Well, one thing definitely to say for sure is it's been an exciting 3 hours so far. I mean, we've seen definitely a lot of incidents probably towards the first 2 hours of the race. It's calmed down a bit more towards this part of the race now.
The stream is down, I guess.
Is it?
Something has happened with the stream, I guess.
Seems to be live on my end.
Okay, no worries then.
Okay, well, people reporting that the stream is fine on their end, so yeah, sorry to cut back into that. Yeah, we've seen quite a few accidents in the first 2 hours of the race, but having said that, with near to 50 cars on track, you know, you're always going to get incidents, unfortunately, but those incidents have been investigated appropriately by our live stewarding team, and all is looking good as we prepare to take you on this commentary ride for the next 3 hours. So once we have just about 6 hours left of the race, we will be handing you back over to Team 1. And of course, this race is sponsored by the Coach Dave Academy. There is the special offer code for the Coach Dave Academy for this race. I can just find the little pop-up, there you go, the little discount there that you can get for the Coach Dave Academy. So if you want to find yourself some good setups or get some coaching from professional GT3 drivers in ACC, you can do so there. But with that out of the way, an incredibly hectic 3 hours. What have you made of it so far, Fabian?
I mean, I was part of the live stewards team, so it was very hectic for me, trying to delegate all the tasks, all the different incidents to the other stewards. So I actually haven't watched most of the race myself due to watching all the incidents. But it looks like that Kevin Siclari is on to a very good race result. I mean, we still have 8 hours and 54 minutes to go. So everything can happen there. So I don't want to curse him already. But for his team, the Racing Line Motorsport boys, it's looking very, very good today.
Yeah, and just as you were mentioning that, I just saw Raig Strello and Josh Martin going head-to-head into Turn 1. A little bit of contact there between the 22 and the 888. Not entirely sure if it was an entirely fair move. It will be investigated by the stewards, of course, so don't need to worry about that too much. But Raig Strello getting himself up into 4th place. But Nick, what have you thought of the racing so far today? Because I know you've been watching quite a lot of it.
Yes, I've been here just up all night, honestly, watching this race from the West Coast, you know, and nothing better to stay up for than just some exciting racing here at Suzuka in virtual Japan with all of these cars on the track. Obviously, we've seen a lot of aggressive overtakes. We've seen crazy 2, 3, 4 car battles going on. all through the stack, and that just proves just how capable all of these drivers are. Just as a reminder to the viewers, we do have 3 classes technically racing in the race altogether, and we've seen a great mix of them, honestly, and they've certain drivers have reached into higher and higher positions. I mean, we see in position 21 there, Ziglin's leading the AM bracket there, and a Folk and his team there leading the Pro-Am team. And at pretty much every section of this race, we've seen battles erupting on every inch of this track. But I mean, I wanted to take a moment and just wonder, when is the rain coming? I know that Jesse and George went a little bit into this. We saw clouds start rolling in at about the 30-minute mark. And a lot of our viewers have been talking about it, just kind of getting excited about it as we pushed further and further into this race, are we going to see drops eventually hit the track?
I'll tell you what, as we have a look through some of the leaders in each of their classes, we can go into that quite a bit. So Fabian, what's your thoughts on the rain? Of course, we did start in some nice sunny weather, to be fair, but as Nick's just pointed out, 30 minutes in, the clouds did start to descend, so, I don't know, are you looking forward to seeing some rain today?
I mean, some rain would definitely spice up the things, the whole race. That could probably be very, very interesting. I mean, most of the drivers should have been prepared for the race, as in the practice server, there was sometimes a lot of rain, so I guess most of these drivers know that it's probably going to rain once in this race. But it doesn't look like that. Currently, it's just a bit cloudy, and the weather forecast also says that in the next 30 minutes there will be nothing. So it doesn't look like rain currently, but we still have more than 8 hours to go. So a lot of time for the rain to pop up.
Yeah, definitely, and something that was maybe touched upon by Comms Team 1 is, of course, the limited number of tyre sets that they have available here today for the 12-hour race. I believe it is 9 sets of tyres that they have available for the race. Of course, that's 9 dry sets. So it's going to be interesting to see that if rain comes into account, then teams won't really have to worry too much about saving their tyres. But if it is going to stay dry for the entire race, then that is going to be much more of a concern going forward, as 9 sets of tyres over 12 hours is quite a bit to manage.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect there, because, well, we have a stint limit of 73 minutes, which means that you could do it in 10 stints if nothing happens, or if your car is capable to do that. I guess the Mercedes, for example, can't do a 73-minute stint because it usually, on other tracks like Monza, always has to fuel save, and even 60 minutes is a stretch there. So I don't know if every car can do a 73-minute stint, but that's exactly where there is some advantage for cars that are better in the long run, but there is also a different strategy involved than for cars that are maybe faster to do in 60 minutes, but just drive 60 minutes and then have to go to the pits, which would mean that actually the drivers that pit every 60 minutes, they obviously need to do 11 stops, if I'm not mistaken, which means 12 stints. And the other drivers that can take 73-minute stints, they just have to do 10 stops. So that will get a very interesting component for this race.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all develops. Just a quick mention on the race leader at the moment, the overall leader in the Pro class, Kevin Saklari, did incredibly well in the first 2 hours of the race, keeping well in touch with the Ferrari of Capoccia that qualified on pole position. And of course, Kevin Saklari now leading the race at the moment. He's got a 27-second gap to the Ferrari behind, but of course with 8 hours and 48 minutes of the race to go, that can all change very, very quickly. But of course we do know Kevin Seclari, very, very talented driver, very clean driver for most of the races that I've seen him in as well, so he's just working his way around the circuit at the moment. But is there anyone out here today, Nick, that's caught your eye in particular?
Well, I mean, I gotta throw it to Car 22. The Strehler brothers, identical twins, as Jesse pointed out to us, have had an incredible race, honestly. They have participated in many battles. They have fought their way up the leaderboard, getting as low as 18th or 17th at one point pretty early on in the race, and now they're sitting pretty comfortable at 4th, and that has only been going up pretty much consistently over the last couple of hours of this race. And I'm rooting for them, because I would love to see them start fighting for 3rd and maybe even getting into this mix-up with Seclari and Kaposha.
Yeah, those Strehler brothers are also very, very known to the Redline Motorsport universe, as Steve Strehler won the Friday Championship, which was season 1 of our regular ACC season. So he's very capable of winning races. And he also was a very, very fast driver in the 2nd season. And his brother was in the Tier 2, I think, and very capable there. So that is a very, very interesting family pairing there. And there are only 2 drivers in their team, which is another very interesting component, because 2 drivers, 12 hours, everyone has to do 6 hours. That is a stretch, guys. That is a stretch. And I mean, we always talked about in different endurance races how hard it is to drive 3 hours, 2 hours, even 1 hour. But each of them is doing 6 hours. That is just crazy.
I mean, and I have to give it to them. It shows how much I don't know about racing, because I get onto a 30-minute sprint race and I get stressed out and take probably last place usually. So just to be able to hold this kind of consistency, these times for 6 hours, and then together for 12 to, you know, hold it down here at Suzuka today, is just showing how capable they are as drivers, as co-drivers. And I'm really excited to see where they end up at the end of this race, which is greatly over 8 hours ahead of us.
Yeah, and something I've just noticed coming up on the timing board now, if I go over, the 888 Aston Martin that we see here today, the Garage 59 livery Aston Martin, it has our very own David Perel in the car at the moment. Of course, it was James Baldwin that did qualifying for this team at the Superpole event just over a week ago. Josh Martin was in the car towards the start of the race, and it is now David Perel in the car, so nice to see David Perel competing in, of course, the event that he is sponsoring with his Coach Dave Academy. And they're going to be hoping to do quite well. They did start very high up the order, didn't they? I think it was around P4, and currently in P11, but of course we don't know if everyone else has done the appropriate amount of stops yet, so it's going to be interesting to see where they come out after everyone else has been doing some pit stops.
Yes, I can confirm they started in P4. And yeah, what an honor it is for us at Redline Motorsport here. We just started around... I mean, I joined Redline Motorsport around a year ago, but the league has been up there for around 1.5 years, 2 years, I think. What an honor it is for us in just a short time that we now get such a professional racing team with David Perel, and they also sponsor us. I mean, that's a big honor.
Having a look at some of the other cars that have been going here today, just having a look here at the number 48 Ferrari. Has Elvin Smith in the car at the moment. This is of course one of the RLM Esports cars, which has definitely been going a bit under the radar, I would say, compared to a lot of the other cars near the front of the grid. They didn't do amazing in qualifying. I think they started just outside the top 10. And I believe, was it Jardia that started the car? Might have been. And this team also has James Parker and Samir Ibrahimi in the team. So, interesting to see how they will do, but doing well so far in 8th place. And speaking of RLM Esports, the 999 Honda NSX of Redline Motorsports Esports, which is headed by Chris Hooker, and Dan Sosolski and Vicky Thompson. So, Vicky now in the car. Chris and Dan have both had a stint in the car, and of course now Vicky has taken over. The car has encountered a few issues over the course of the race, as we see the 969 Mercedes spin at the hairpin. And yeah, this car has had a drive-through penalty, I believe, hasn't it, for an incident earlier on in the race, so it's had a bit of a rough time of it.
Yeah, that's true. They got a drive-through penalty. They also had a second one, but this stewards team had to remove it, because once we looked over it again, we thought that drive-through was not appropriate for it, but a 10-second time penalty instead, which will be added after the race. After the race, we will have just provisional standings, which just will still apply some time penalties. But yeah, the first 2 hours have been a bit rough for the stewards guys. Constant shouting and having to look at several replays. But in the end, I hope it worked out pretty well. I mean, it's not easy to hand out a penalty to anyone, especially it's the own Redline Motorsport team. But sadly, we had no choice really.
Yeah, we've got to make sure that it's fair, and of course that's the thing that we do strive for here at Redline Motorsport, to make sure that everyone is treated fairly and equally when being investigated for incidents. So that does mean that sometimes we have to punish our very own drivers. But anyway, as you say that, I can see about 3 people in race control right now, so I think the stewards have quite a bit more work to do, but we'll hope they don't get too overloaded, because we'd like to see a nice clean rest of this race. But talking about things being close at the moment, the 2 Ferraris, the number 41 of Tassinoi and the number 48 of Elvin Smith, are right near each other, and I get the feeling we might be seeing an overtake here soon.
Yeah, that is the Redline Motorsports Esports car of Elvin Smith, I guess. That should be the one with Sami Ibrahimi, Jardia, and James Parker. So James Parker, who's doing the setups for Dave Perel. And we have them fighting against car number 41, Hooligan Club Racing Pro, and they've just went off, which was a very easy pass for car 48. Sometimes it's that easy.
Yeah, Elvin Smith will take that every day of the week, a freebie, as we like to call it in the sim racing community, where you don't really have to push too much for an overtake, but that's also going to help the Redline Motorsport car, as well as a backmarker did happen to get in the way of the 41 going through 130R. So that has cost them some time. So of course the number 48 now will start to stretch out a bit more of a gap, and Elvin Smith will now get his head down and he'll focus on Christopher Leon up ahead of him. And as they come over the line, Elvin Smith 2.7 seconds behind the 838 Audi, so he's got some work to do.
Yeah.
And just goes to show you how exciting this race continues to be. I mean, we see 2 Ferraris battling for 7th and 8th place there, and a very tight, a great opportunity to take there with them going wide in the spoon. And it's just exciting to see like so many Ferraris up near the top. I mean, we had a Ferrari leading the race for quite a while, and just to see the scrappiness of a Ferrari battling against these Astons as the popular pick for this race.
Well, now that you say it, the Astons are pretty much further down the road. You only have car number 22 with the Strelo brothers in the top 10, as well as Dave Perel's team. So even if we had so many Aston Martins signed up, only 2 of them in the top 10, which is quite a surprise for me.
And we saw at the Super Bowl event last weekend that the Ferraris really shined. They were able to set down very secure laps that probably surprised a lot of these other teams that decided to go with the Aston, even with the extra 20 on the BOP, deciding that that was the best choice for this race, and knowing how well the Aston can perform at Suzuka, and just to have a gracious handful of Ferraris being strong competitors and even beating them out 4 positions in the qualifying Super Bowl was just exciting stuff to see last weekend.
Oh, Nick, you sound like you're a Ferrari fanboy.
I have been found out. Yes. So I have always loved Ferraris, honestly, and just to see how they handle in the current lineup for GT3 racing, they seem to be a bit of an underdog, honestly, because they just fight scrappy, and they brake late, and they like to aim late for the apexes, and that's how they get positions. And when you can see professional level drivers behind the wheel of a Ferrari, you can see how ferocious they can be against these other Astons and Mercedes on the track that are considered to be more stable, or even the Audis here. And just to see the Ferraris really come in and be a ferocious competitor against them is just always exciting to see for me.
Yeah, they're pretty much a very good all-rounder car. It basically works on every track that we have in ACC so far. It is a very beautiful choice if you want to have a stable mid-engine car, as it is, in my opinion, a lot easier to drive than the Audi. But it still has the advantages that a middle-engine car brings with you, that you have a little bit more agility than with a front-engine car, which is a very fun way to drive a car, because then you don't drive very roundly, but sometimes you V the corners then, especially in the Audi or in the Porsche, where the engine is even at the back of the car. So then you obviously have to V the corners, which means that you drive very straight, you attack the corner very straight, turn very sharply, and then go straight again. Other than the Aston, for example, you have to drive it very round. You don't want to lose any speed, because it's a bit like a go-kart maybe, where you don't want to brake too much. It's the same with the Aston. You have to keep the speed, otherwise it will bog down too much.
Yes, definitely. And as a few of our viewers have already pointed out, I just wanted to bring attention to this, interestingly, that we are missing a handful of cars from this entire lineup, with over 50 cars on the track, but there are 0 McLarens, Lambos, or Bentleys currently on the track, and that's been noticed by the viewers. So I kind of want to throw Ryan a little bit under the bus. Maybe if this is just a technical question, is there any reason why you think any of those cars really don't belong at Suzuka, or maybe other people, these racing teams, don't trust those cars?
Well, maybe it's just because it doesn't fit that good on the track. I don't know about the Bentley. It is usually considered a very safe choice, because it is very stable, but sometimes it lacks a bit of speed. So maybe that's the reason why many teams have not chosen to use the Bentley. The McLaren, that's a wild choice, because it works on a few tracks, the Nürburgring, for example, where it is very good, or Silverstone. But it is not. It has some flaws on other tracks. That's why it makes it so strange. Yeah, so I think that is the reasons why those were not chosen. And as someone stated, or asked in the chat, well, they're restricted. No, actually not. We just have 2 cars that we applied a BOP, a personal BOP on them, which is the Mercedes, I think, and the Aston Martin. But even with the personal BOP, the Mercedes is still very, very fast. I mean, we got P1 and P3 for Ciclari and Lawrence. So they're still very fast.
Yeah, I was just about to say, even with the BOP that we had to put onto those cars in preparation for the 12-hour, they have still shown their pace around here. And just as I say that, we saw the number 4 car of Dimov, the Porsche, go past Kevin Stuck. Of course, Kevin Stuck being in the BMW for the Kunos Racing team, and the number 4 Porsche gaining a free place there from Kevin Stuck, overshooting his braking point coming into the last chicane. So a free place there for one of the only Porsches, I think, on the grid. Am I not wrong with saying that?
A quick look around the grid. There are actually 3, but that's the only one in the top 20 actually. So you're not that wrong with your statement. And quickly talking about Kevin Stuck, maybe the developer of Kunos Simulationen, being a team member of the Kunos Racing team, they had quite a mixed race. They started in which was a P46. They made their way up to P19 now, which is a very good result, but they actually got a drive-through penalty early on in the last hour, I think. And I think it was for blocking another car, so I guess they were blue flagged, and then they blocked the cars behind them. And I thought that maybe the game developers know that better, but no, that's just joking a bit with them. Obviously, it's not always easy to go out the way if you get a blue flag, and anyone can get a penalty, so they just have to keep on going now.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, how exciting is it to have a full dev team participating in a Redline Motorsports race, a sponsored race even, to have a full dev team show up and say, hey, we're going to put our team out with the other players, with these other racers and teams, and we're gonna show what we can do, and try to see what we can learn from them, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we at Redline Motorsport are very proud to have the Kunos devs always there. I mean, I think one of the first events that they entered was the 3-hour at Solder, and since then they basically entered every event so far. And 2 of them are even going to enter the 2-hour endurance championship that we are planning for next week. It starts, I think, with the Monza. So we will see even more of the Kunos devs here at Redline Motorsport, and that makes us very proud, because obviously you have the game devs here who can then in first hand try out their game themselves in an environment like a 12-hour race that they maybe haven't tested so much before. So it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. It's always great to have the devs getting in on the action, and competing in events like these. And of course, we've stated it earlier on, there were some issues that were happening with ACC, with some people getting crashes, and unfortunately it's out of our control, and the race has to go on at some point, so we had to start the race, and unfortunately a couple of teams couldn't start or couldn't connect at all. And obviously we do appreciate that a lot of people take a lot of time out to compete in these races, and we do apologize, but unfortunately it's out of our hands. But Kunos, they are watching, they are taking the data, they are looking at all of these races, and they are getting the feedback, and ACC is getting better with every update. In fact, it was after the 3-hour of Zolder that we had quite a big update to fix some of the issues there. I think it was after Nürburgring as well. We've had quite a few patches to fix some things. There are still some things that need ironing out, but Kunos are well onto it, and of course the more events like these that we host and other communities host just mean that, it's going to help along with the development.
Yeah, definitely. And now looking at the battle for P10, or actually P9 there that we see with Favoriti, Clement, Foch, Moya. Oh, no, Muya. Something must have happened with Muir, because I think he was closer before. But then we've actually got a 3-way battle for P9. So let's see what happens there. There is also the pink Mücke Motorsport car involved, but I think this is a blue flagged car because they seem to be in position 23. So hopefully they won't distract the other drivers around them too much so that they can race cleanly. But of course, the Mücke Motorsport team is a very, very experienced team. They're actually, I think, who was it again? Wolf Matushka, who's driving currently, is a member of the real Mücke Motorsport racing team. I think he's like an engineer or something like that there. And, well, it's, I mean, we have game developers there, we have real drivers there, we have engineers there. That is a very, very exciting grid. And, I mean, to have someone from real racing teams there is just awesome. And that with the in-game tool where you can edit your liveries, that you can get so close to the real Mücke Motorsport livery team, is also pretty amazing.
Yeah, just on board here right now with the 894 of Anthony Foch, the TPR Racing entry. Obviously coming up to Clement in 10th place in the number 72 BMW, and that's actually quite an interesting note to jump on. Actually, the BMW is not really a car that we're too familiar with in our ACC endurance events. In fact, I think it's the first time we've had more than one BMW in an endurance event. You may be able to correct me on that, Fabian, but it's not a car we're used to seeing around here.
Well, it's not a car I see often, that's true. In season 1 of our regular ACC season, we have seen Vicky there with the BMW. She very much loved it, but with the BOP that it got, it's not that good around many tracks, which means that she was always frustrated with the car, and that's also probably one of the reasons why we don't see it that often. But the Kronos team, I see fairly regularly with in the BMW. So they're at least one team that always try to use it if it's capable of having a good result.
Yeah, definitely. And I tell you what, he's been here for a while now in the race to relay penalty information and stewarding news. And I will now hand over to Mr. Jake Boswell, who can update us on some of the penalties that have been going around since we took over the coverage here.
Yes, thank you very much, Ryan. We've been pretty busy, as you guys know yourselves, over in the stewarding box. Plenty of stuff coming along for us to keep us busy. I'll try and keep you up to date as much as I can. Currently, we've got a few just to inform you on. Sorry, we had a drive-through penalty for car number 42. For unfortunately, it was I believe a dive bomb attempt that went wrong. We had a drive-through for car 777. Now, they got 2 penalties here. They actually got themselves a 10-second penalty just before for some aggressive driving. Furthermore, a lap later, there was a dive bomb attempt with contacts, and they gained a position which got them the drive-through. They've continued on over the next few laps to cause more problems and actually took out a leader a few laps later, which has gained them the top stop and go 30-second penalty. So they are on the cusp of possibly getting a disqualification if they do anything further. So 777 is a car to look out for. Also got a drive through for some ambitious overtaking for 649, causing a couple of cars to go off track in the chicane. We have a drive through for 194, another takeout, pretty clean takeout on car 300. And they also gained themselves a warning for some dangerous driving. And the last couple, a drive through for 969. I don't have too much information on that one. I believe that was another takeout. And also a stop and go penalty, 10 seconds for car number 196. So as you can hear, we've been pretty busy over in the stewarding box. We're not getting to watch much racing. Now that you guys are, how is it faring?
Well, I have to say, we haven't seen too much in the way of incidents on camera, but obviously you guys have been behind the scenes and looking into some of the incidents. We're hoping that now with 3.5 hours gone of this race, it will start to calm down a bit and your job can get a bit easier though, Jake. But yeah, hopefully you can start to see some racing soon as we watch Palamuya just getting past Anthony Fock for 9th place.
Yes, I hope so too, and hopefully I won't have to come and visit too often. So if you guys enjoy your race, I'll hopefully catch you afterwards.
Well, you're more than welcome to come back anytime, Jake, but we'll leave you to get back to any stewarding business that you have.
Thank you very much.
So there you go, that was Jake Boswell just keeping us up to date with some of the stewarding news going on around the circuit. Obviously some incidents going on and penalties needing to be handed out for dangerous driving and obviously contact as well. But looking throughout, we have a few people in the pit lane at the moment, so pit stops going on all around. But it is still Kevin Seclari who leads at the front in the 191 Mercedes.
Yeah, and second car, Capoccia 715, the Ferrari. They just went into the pits to serve their pit stop, so I guess it will be their third one if I can count correctly. And also car number 12 in P3 and car number 41 in P8, sorry, and just went into the pits. So I guess that will be the regular stop for most of the drivers that try to use as much of the 73-minute stints that they can.
And of course those stint time limits are going to be something that they have to keep an eye on. It was a big issue at the Nürburgring 6 hour that we had, with people going over their allocated stint limit and unfortunately getting drive-through penalties for that. So that's going to be something that people have to be a lot more careful on coming into this race, but we've been a bit more lenient on it this time in terms of the amount of time that a single driver can compete in for the 12-hour race. So we're not looking to see as many problems as we did at the Nürburgring 6 hour, as Kevin Seclari comes up behind the 15th place car of Vicky Thompson.
Yeah, Vicky Thompson just had a very rough race, I suppose. Well, we already talked about it a few minutes ago. Hopefully she can have a better race in the next remaining 8 hours together with her teammates. Well, she's now in P12. I guess they just need to do their pit stops again, or they need to do their pit stops, because I don't think they've already been in their stops for the third time. But if they are, then that wouldn't be too bad, actually. I think they started in P13, so they are not that far away from that position.
And earlier we were talking about how well the Strello brothers have been doing so far in the race. Another car that's been doing fairly well is the 666 Lexus, driven by Paolo Moya at this point in time. Of course, he's partnered up with Patrick Silva. I think they're another one of the teams that's only running 2 drivers in their team. Of course, we're used to seeing Patrick Silva and Paolo Moya in the Ferrari in the Friday Championship, and it was actually Paolo Moya that won the Friday Championship Season 2. So won it in quite dominant fashion as well, only taking 1 race win, but was consistently in the top 4. So he's very familiar with finishing high up the grid, and he's right on the back of the number 41 Ferrari, currently driven by Hudson. And he's going to be looking to get past it sooner or later.
Yeah, Moya is a very fast driver. I mean, if you have a look in the leaderboards for the special events that Kunos usually do, he is always one of the best there. In the competition servers, he is always one of the best at Split 1. As Ryan just told us, in Season 2, he won the championship. I think, in my opinion, he's one of the fastest drivers there, up there with Mike Noble, Andre Franke, a very fast driver.
And it's interesting that you actually mention Mike Noble and Andre Franco, of course, the winners of the Zolder 3-hour, but then they were unfortunately disqualified for not serving a drive-through penalty at the Nürburgring 6-hour. It's important to mention that they're not here today, deciding not to compete in the Suzuka 12 hours, so it's interesting not to see them here at the moment, as I've just seen coming up on the timing board that the number 41 Ferrari has received a drive-through penalty. However, I haven't got a notification that that's for a collision, so that might be track limits.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, Jake Boss will tell us again in a few minutes. But yeah, as you've been talking about the drive-through for Hudson, we have seen Samuel Rutz for the Racing Line Motorsport team number 191 in the pits. Or well, it was actually Kevin Ciclari, but he handed the car over to Samuel Rutz. So let's see how fast he will be. I mean, Samuel Rutz is a very fast driver as well. But I don't have that much information about him because he hasn't raced in that many events before in Redline Motorsport. Just like Kevin Ciclari, for example, who we have many data about.
Yeah, Samuel Ratz, I think I remember him driving in the Ferrari in Season 2's Friday Championship, I believe it is.
Yeah, I think he was in a Ferrari, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about as much as we know. I'm not too sure about his performances in a Mercedes, so it will be very interesting to see how he gets along. But of course, being partnered up with someone like Kevin Ciclari, you'd imagine that if Kevin Ciclari is okay to partner up with him, he's definitely going to be one of the faster guys, and he definitely was one of the faster guys in the Friday Championship. But Nick, you've been a bit quiet for a while. How are you doing over there?
Honestly, I am just enjoying this very exciting battle here. Moya obviously fought for 9th place, and now he has just been riding Hudson, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens when he has to serve that drive-through. As we're approaching the spoon here, looking for a little bit of the inside, but not quite ready to take it. But I have a feeling that we're going to see an overtake happen pretty soon here, if that does happen before the drive-through is served.
I mean, I'm surprised why the Ferrari with Hudson in front doesn't let Moya just through, because the drive-through just means that he doesn't really need to attack or defend really harshly.
Yeah, and just having seen there, both Hudson and Moya going very, very wide at 130R. Both of them most likely picking up an off-track warning to go with it, so they're going to have to be a bit careful now. Of course, Hudson's already got a drive-through penalty. We're not 100% sure what that is yet. It may be track limits, it may be for an investigation that was ongoing by the stewards. We will find out soon. But Paolo Moya, he's... well, this car's already had a drive-through penalty, I believe, Fabian. You can correct me on that.
Sorry, what did you just say?
The 666 has already had a drive-through, has it not?
Oh, let me quickly check the right sheet for that. 666. Yes, he already got a drive-through for putting his nose inside, and then spinning car number 46, which is just 2 positions behind them on the track, but actually 11 positions behind.
Yeah, so interesting. See there that obviously car 666 has already had a drive-through penalty for collision. He's going to want to get past this Ferrari nice and clean. He's going to be really tight up towards the back of the Ferrari coming into the hairpin. Not quite being able to do it now. The Ferrari's going to be wide on the exit of the hairpin. Paolo Moya flashing his lights. He wants to get past the Ferrari as quickly as possible, and of course he knows that the Ferrari has a drive-through penalty to serve at some point during the next couple of laps, I believe. So obviously Paolo Moya wants the Ferrari out of the way so that he can start to gain some time to 7th place Kurbanov, I think it is, in the 144 Mercedes.
And I mean, it isn't really good for Hudson himself, actually, to defend that harshly against Moya, because he will lose time as well. And as he doesn't fight for position currently with his penalty, that isn't really very clever, I would say. I would just let him through, to be fair.
Well, he
And now
has
goes to the
he
pits.
has let him through now. I'm guessing he's gone to serve that drive-through penalty that he's picked up. And with that, we can have a little bit of a switch over to Wolf Matuszka in the 25 BWT Muka Motorsport car that you've already mentioned about. He's catching the 514 Lexus of Geider in the Pro-Am class. Of course, Wolf and Tushka being in the Pro class, so these two not racing for class position, but racing for overall position instead.
Yeah, Matt Matuszka having a few costly accidents early on in the race, dropping to this 18th position. That team has been fighting for positions and looks like they've been staying just about the middle of the pack, fighting with the top of the Pro-Am bracket here. But I mean, still putting up amazing fights. I do know that at one point they did have to pit to fix some damage about an hour into the race. Yeah, I mean, to still be in 18th after two pretty major accidents and having to stop for damage repairs just goes to show how much of a competitor Matuszka really is.
Yeah, and sorry, Ryan. He is very, very known to be a very, very, very fast driver. I mean, in Split 2, Season 2, he was always winning the dry races, but it looked like that he had a few problems in wet races where he was just barely in the top 10. But he dominated the dry race, and it is still currently dry in Suzuka, which is only good for Wolf Matuszka. But I suppose if it will get a bit wetter, maybe he will have a harder time.
And I feel like we are just waiting for that first drop to hit the tarmac. I mean, it's getting darker, definitely. You know, going into the late afternoon here, about 4 o'clock in-game time, with a little over 8 hours still on the clock for this race, going all the way till midnight. I mean, I think it's very possible. It's been teased almost the entire race, and just to see and you know, to see how the teams have to adjust to this random weather condition that is possible on this server, just to really mix that up and see how that affects the scorecard.
Yeah, it's interesting to see a couple of cars already running with their lights on, even though it's definitely not dark enough to require your lights on yet. Some of them maybe have them on in advance, just maybe waiting or rather hoping for some rain, as we know how much rain can throw up, you know, all sorts of chaos. People diving into the pit lane, trying to stay out on dry tyres. All depending on what level of rain that we get, and of course the water level sitting on the track. And Suzuka, one of those circuits with a lot of elevation change, means that, you know, certain part of the tracks you will get puddles, and in other parts of the track it won't so much be the case. And yeah, very, very interesting. Maybe we will get some rain, but Fabian, can you update us on the forecast at the moment?
It still looks fairly dry on the forecast. In the next 30 minutes we won't see any rain. But what we will see in the next few minutes is an interview with another driver, which we will just try to put into here now. So, Judograph, if you quickly tell us who you are, you're now live on the stream. Ready for the interview, I suppose. Just have to unmute yourself, and then we can start with the interview, I hope. So, it looks like that he might either have noticed already that he is in the commentator's box, or there's some other technical issues. So I guess we will just keep on talking, and once he is ready to talk, we will just go over to the interview then. Or maybe I have to put the right roll on him. Let's see.
Well, just looking here at the AAA Aston Martin of David Perel, and it's interesting to note, looking at the top 5 cars at the moment, it's the Mercedes and the Aston Martins that were given the extra 20 kilos of BOP to make them a bit more level on performance over the course of the race. But looking at the top 5 now, 2 Mercedes, 2 Aston Martins in the top 5. It means, it shows you definitely for sure that even with the 20 extra kilos of BOP, they are going incredibly quick around here. And of course, if you extend that out to the top 10, we have an extra Mercedes in there as well.
Yes, definitely, and exciting to see.
Now sorry, guys.
There he
all
is. So, as I don't know from your Discord name, who are you?
Yeah, sorry, we are from car 111 from team PCF. I'm Johannes Wiese, so this third stint.
So you're from the German-Austrian team there?
Exactly, that's right.
So, Ryan, maybe you quickly find out where these guys are. Maybe you can tell us in which position you're currently.
Yeah, we're currently in 18th, so running quite well actually.
18th, and I see you are third in your Pro AM class.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually. We're just looking for the overall standings, but we're running pretty good. We had quite a turbulent first stint, but it worked out quite nicely. Had one drive-through, absolutely deserved, but now we have a good race pace and we're looking to head on.
See, guys, that's how you take a penalty. That's how you take a penalty. No moaning, just accepting it and going on. But I mean, even with a drive-through, I guess there are not many drivers that haven't gotten a drive-through already, so probably everything evened out already. But you're still P18 with a drive-through. So what was your goal for this race when you started this race before the race start, after the qualifying? What did you expect?
Yeah, our goal was probably top 25 because we knew we had a very good race pace and we didn't really put on the best showing in qualifying. So we are actually very happy to be in P18 already because the race is so long and there will probably be a lot of penalties ahead. So we're looking quite strong, I think.
Yeah, I just see you're one of the teams that started the journey from going from the back of the grid to more the front of the grid, as you started in P34. So you already gained a lot of positions, and well, so now that you're P18, have your ambitions for this race actually changed a bit?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think the whole field is now quite spread out, but with our race pace, we could probably go like near the top 15 if someone else makes a mistake. But as I said, we are really happy because after the first corner we were in dead last, so that's quite an improvement, I guess.
Yeah, and that also proves that you always have to, especially in long endurance races, you have to stick with it. Just have to try it, and you probably even come out at the top half of the grid. And well, something that I always ask the people that are in there for the interview, which is very interesting for me, who has actually done the setups for you?
Yeah, so we worked ages on the setup, like Santi or Sebastian is our setup guy, and we work all together. But then we actually tried David Perel's setup because we were curious, because their times were really great, and we didn't really see where we lost time in the second sector. And it turned out that the setup had quite a different approach, and we actually liked it. And so we worked on David's setup and improved it for our driving styles. And so now it's pretty much dead flat in the corners, and we're really fast in the S-curve. So yeah, it's like a combination of David Perel's, thank you to David for actually writing back to me and stuff, and one of our team.
Yeah, see guys, I mean, as Dave Perel is our main sponsor here with this Coach Dave website, we already have someone who helped him, which is pretty great. So, and I also see that you've picked the Aston just like Coach Dave's team did. Why did you choose the Aston?
Well, the Aston is a great all-around car. It's probably the fastest out of the box with no setup changes, I guess. And it's pretty easy to drive, especially if you compare it to like the Audi or the Ferrari.
I can tell you, I can sing you a song from the Audi. That was my car for season 2 in ACC, and I wasn't that happy with it.
I mean, I love it. I also love the Porsche, but we have to find a common ground in the team, and so we set up the Aston, and we found it really great to drive. And so even with the 20 kilos of BOP adjustment, we stick to it, and it really works out great, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's a very great car for the for the race actually, and even and especially for longer races. What is your strategy actually? Do you try to do 60-minute stints or 73-minute stints? What's your strategy there?
Yeah, we are right on the edge. We go with the 73s, and we made our tires last. We did quite a lot of testing, and it turned out that if we do the double tire stints with the first stint on a driver who really doesn't use the front tires, we can actually make them last. So that's our goal, to actually go through with it and do the least amount of pit stops. We'll see how it works out, but that's the thing.
And have you already tried to do a first double stint?
No, we're actually doing the double stints right at the end. So our plan is to go all the way with the first 6 or 7 stints and then do one double stint at the end. Because we think with the colder temperatures, the tires will probably last even longer, and we can push out the stint time even longer. So that's our goal, I think.
Yeah, also you have the advantage obviously that if it might rain, you don't have the problem of doing even a double stint, because then you can use just a new set of wet tires, which we have an infinite amount of. It's just the dry tires that are restricted. So yeah, that's an interesting approach there. And, do you want to add something to that?
No, I just want to say also thank you to the whole organization and to the streaming team. I mean, it's been a pleasure. We are streaming the race as well, and just the organization is amazing. Even though the start was quite turbulent with all the drivers connecting and stuff like that, but that's to be expected. So I really enjoy the event and the thing you put on here, guys. So thank you.
Yeah, sure. It's a pleasure to do this. And I mean, what would the events be without you drivers? It would just be the commentators talking about an empty track, and that would be quite boring. But the drivers are the real stars here at Redline Motorsports. So yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for having the interview with me. It was fun learning something from you and from your team. So good luck for you and your German teammates for the remainder of the 8 hours that are still left, and maybe we will see you in one of the next few endurance races.
Yeah, I hope so. Like that's also our goal, to make a good impression so that we can actually participate in the next one. So yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you guys again. Thank you for having me, and have a great one.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Always great to get the insights of some of the drivers racing here today, and of course if anyone in the stream watching at the moment is one of the drivers who has raced or is going to race later on today in the race, do come down to the Ready to Interview channel in the Discord, and we will gladly have an interview with you. Fabian always loves asking questions of everyone who races in these events, and it's always great to get some good insight into how a lot of the drivers approach this race. For example, interesting to know that there are some people going for that tire saving strategy. We mentioned the limited number of tire sets and how that would play a part. So it's interesting to hear from one of the teams themselves that they're definitely going for a tire saving strategy.
Yeah, so that was Johannes Wiese from Austria, and he's part of a solely German-speaking team. Well, he's the only Austrian in that team, but never mind. Still a German-speaking team, and yeah, I always like to ask the drivers, because they are obviously the ones that are sitting in the car and having to drive these things. So it's always a nice way of getting to know what the drivers are doing and not just speculating about them like we always do.
Yeah, commentary seems to be just professional speculation, and it's exciting to hear one of the drivers come in to the booth here and just talk about the team strategy and what their approach is to this 12-hour race. And it's just exciting to hear what they're trying to plan with the limited tire sets. I mean, he mentioned obviously that with the colder weather setting in, or even this heavier cloud coverage, we're going to see longer stints being possible. And I mean, like that's genius, honestly.
Yeah, you just said that commentators always do professional speculating. That almost sounds like something that would come out from Las Vegas.
That is true, actually. I would say it's a fun sport in itself.
Yeah, just watching the battle here between the number 46 Lexus of Rusu and the number 71 Audi of Lebrec. It's interesting to see the Audi on the back of the Lexus here. Of course, the Audi just got past Gergo Panka in the 778 Kunos Racing Team BMW, and the Audi now looking to make more places and get himself into the top 20. Of course, this isn't a race for class position, but it is for overall position, so it's interesting to see how that is going. But we do also have a penalty for the number 4 Porsche of Dimov. You can actually see that up at the top of the timing board there. And we should have Jake Boswell in the box in not too long to maybe give a bit more of an elaboration on why that penalty has been handed down.
Yeah, let's see. And well, Ryan, you're always so excited about rain in this race. I do not have something to report about you in rain in this race, but I was just looking outside and I see almost a thunderstorm there in Germany. So maybe it just takes a little bit of while until this weather goes from Germany over Europe, over Asia to Japan. So maybe we will see rain in a few hours.
Well, hopefully so. I mean, it's been raining plenty over here in the UK, or at least where I am, so if we can force that rain over towards Suzuka, that would be ideal. But as the forecast is dry at the moment, we are now looking at Christian Manu looking to have an overtake on Hudson in the number 41 Ferrari. And of course, this number 41 Ferrari is the one that had a drive-through penalty, I think it was for track limits earlier on. So they have been and served that penalty as Christian Manu does get past through the S's, and a very clean move done there by the Lexus.
Yeah, that was also very surprising because it was in the S's actually. Not many times that I see an overtake being made here.
And especially just such a clean one. I mean, the Ferrari sitting there, getting past in the S's, might not have been even expecting that, especially from the Lexus there, as he's trying to fight back for those positions. I mean, we just saw him take his drive-through penalty a few laps ago, and you know, we see Moya back up in that 8th position, up where they were fighting just a moment ago. And we'll see if Hudson has what it takes to get back up into that position.
Yeah, we're now looking at Wolf Matushka in the 25 BWT Muka Motorsport car in 15th place at the moment, right on the back of the 72 BMW of Burgess. And Wolf obviously driving incredibly fast, like you said, Nick, earlier on, that this car has had some bad luck, been involved in a couple of incidents, and went quite far down the field. Of course, they're working their way back up now, and maybe not going to be within a chance of a win here today, unlike they were at the Nürburgring 6 hour. But they're definitely going to be in for a shout at the top 10 come the end of this race if Wolf and his teammates can keep driving the way they are.
I mean, especially we can see here, just ready to take a bite out of Burgess in front of him, not letting a few early mistakes or accidents slow that team down. We are going to see this bright pink Audi most likely in the top 10 going throughout the rest of this race, I would safely bet.
Yeah, and this very, very beautiful Audi. I don't think that Ryan would agree with me, as he doesn't have a love. Oh, as the BMW has a little bit of almost a spin with this BMW, and that makes it a very easy pass for the Muka Motorsport team.
And Machuska obviously gonna sneak right past of that pretty clear mistake coming out of the chicane, coming back into the S's, just securing another spot into that vicious climb for the top 10.
And Fabian was just about to say that I don't like the colour of this rather pink and bright Audi. I will inform you, Fabian, I actually do quite like the pink Audi. The BWT liveries that you see on quite a lot of cars, I'm actually quite a fan of. I just don't like pink in the way that you do it on your cars. So it's something more towards your livery creations, Fabian, rather than just pink in general.
I think it's just something personal between you and me. Maybe we have to talk about this after the race.
I am censoring a livery go down right here between Fabian and Ryan. I honestly, I find the liveries themselves to be a lot of the personality on the track, especially when we're going into this darker, overcast kind of setting. I mean, you're going to see these super bright liveries really take center stage, just as eye candy going around Suzuka.
Yeah, you often find that the livery that a driver does make for their car does very much reflect either their personality or their interests. And well, I mean, there are some people that just make liveries whatever they want because, you know, they're not too bothered, but there are also some people that make liveries as kind of a form of expression or of a form of entertainment for people. And as we see here, the 128 Lexus of Mazet coming up to Abrinosa's number 9 Ferrari. Of course, the number 9 Ferrari in the AM class. I think it's the leader in the AM class, is it not?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I just had a quick look, and you are right, Ryan. This is the leader of the AM class.
Yeah, so the number 9 Ferrari leading the AM class at the moment. It's got quite a big lead, actually, looking down the order. 22nd in the overall order, and second place in the AM class is all the way down in 27th, quite a way behind. So, yeah, the number 9 Ferrari keeping its nose fairly clean in its own class at the moment, surrounded by Pro-Am and a couple of Pro cars as well. And of course, he doesn't have to move out of the way for these Pro cars. He can fight for position. Overall position does count for something in this race, so, you know, they're not ordered to move out of the way, but in terms of a class victory, there isn't much point of fighting the Lexus. And as they go side by side coming towards the chicane, the Ferrari's going to have the inside line, but the Lexus is going to go around the outside of the first part of the chicane, and he's going to get the move done fairly clean.
And we're seeing another solid pass from a Lexus over a Ferrari. I mean, this is slowly becoming a pattern as some of the Ferraris are kind of slipping in positions. But I mean, imagine being in the AM bracket here with the 128 Lexus in the Pro bracket, just waiting to pass you and fighting for that position. So the Ferrari really fighting for its life there in the number 9.
Yeah, we can actually see the 128 Lexus, quite a few scraps and scratches on that car as well. It's definitely been in the wars, as you can see, the car looking quite beaten up. No obvious bodywork damage on the front or the side of that car, but it's definitely had a few body rub moments with some other cars out there. And of course, towards the end of the race, that's what a lot of these cars are going to look like. They're going to have lots of scratches, they're going to be absolutely filthy come the end, and I think some people don't really realise that so much when a lot of people watch sprint races or Formula 1, is that if they're new to endurance racing and they don't know how it works and what it looks like, you know, these cars look, you know, they look like they've been through the wars come the end of the race.
Yeah, that car definitely looks battle worn.
That's true. I mean, and if the first bit of this race is any consolation to this, I mean, we've seen scraps and battles, I mean, just car boxing matches to fight for these positions at this very exciting 12-hour Suzuka race that we've been watching. And you know, I think we're going to keep seeing that. I mean, we've seen these 2, even 3 car battles for positions, and I think that's just going to keep happening as we move into the night phase of this race.
And as we look now at the 715 of Giorgio Simonini, of course the pole sitter that we had at the start of the race, and of course the man who won the Super Pole just over a week ago. It's not doing too bad at the moment, of course not leading the race, very much behind Samuel Ratz at the moment, but a long way to go at the moment. 7 hours 49 minutes just remaining. And big thank you to all the follows that we've had today. We do appreciate it, guys. In fact, we're almost at 4,000 members in the Redline Motorsport community on Discord, so if we could crack that 4,000 on stream, that would be some achievement indeed for a community that was founded just about 2 years ago. So absolutely incredible. So thank you for all the follows, all the subs today, and of course do remember that if you have Twitch Prime, you can subscribe for free. It helps support us and our server costs going forward, so we do appreciate that. But of course it's not mandatory, only do that if you have it available and if you wish to do so. And of course you can check out some of our sponsors with Fanatec, GT Omega and the Coach Dave Academy. Of course, Coach Dave sponsoring this event, and there is the Suzuka 12-hour code that you can use as well if you wish to get yourself some setups for any of the tracks here in ACC for the car of your choice.
Yeah, and as someone already mentioned in the driver interview that we had before with Team PCF member Johannes Weiser, there was already someone who got good help from David Perel there. So it looks like there are very good race setups there. And I mean, usually the most preset default setups are actually very good in ACC, especially if you compare it to other games, where especially I struggle to race with the default setups, because usually they are just the same for the car for every track. But in ACC, you actually have a few differences between the default setups, even in the same car. So that definitely helps to be fast from the get-go. But some seriously developed setups from real racing drivers, and also with engineers, and with James Parker, who's a very well-known esports driver here at Redline Motorsports. That is everything that you get when you buy David Perel's setups, and this really shows.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good way of obviously improving your sim racing game, but of course it's never mandatory. It's only if you really do want to take your sim racing to the next level. But of course, as Fabian and I both know, there's nothing wrong with being slow and not competing at the top. We're very much familiar with that. But as we look at Dimov right now in the number 4 Porsche, he is closing in on the number 72 BMW of Burgess, and actually on the number 72 BMW of Burgess, we've seen him getting overtaken by quite a few cars here today, but not doing any overtaking himself.
Maybe he's a good driver when he's alone, but not good driving around in a package. That's only speculation, of course. Maybe, but it can be something that the driver needs to work on. I mean, I am one of these drivers as well. I'm not very good at fighting with other cars. I usually just sit down and wait when something in front of you happens. But that's obviously not good for your race pace and for your race results overall.
And I think looking at how it's going at the moment, with just under 8 hours left of the race, the sky is still very much cloudy but no rain in the air at the moment. Should we have a bit of a conversation on how we think this race is going to progress? Of course, we have Samuel Ratz leading the way at the moment, and of course he was partnered with Kevin Siclari, and of course now the 715 Ferrari, which did qualify on pole, is now in second place. Do you see this being, a consistent trend at the moment. I mean, Samuel Ratz has a 39.4 second gap to the Ferrari behind. It's quite a gap to have after 4 hours and 15 minutes of this race. Do you think that gap's going to keep extending, Fabian, or do you think the Ferrari will be able to reel it in towards the end?
I mean, they kept on improving their gap to the car behind, hour after hour. I mean, we've already seen around 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, maths is a bit hard if you try to talk at the same time, but yeah, it's actually 4 hours and 15 minutes. So they've actually just made the gap larger and larger. So I don't see why that should change. But something to consider also is that maybe they run on a different strategy, because as they are in the Mercedes, they probably burn a lot more fuel than the other cars. And that means that they probably go in every 60 minutes. Maybe they can stretch their stints a bit more, but I don't think that they can do the entire 73 minutes on one set of on one fuel tank. So yeah, what do you think, Ryan?
Well, I mean, as someone who's driven the Ferrari quite a bit, I'm quite familiar with the fuel economy side of things. Obviously, I know the Mercedes is a very fuel-hungry car. I mean, James Parker has said that on multiple occasions when I've spoken to him, and from what I've seen as well from other Mercedes drivers, they very much have the same opinion. And the Ferrari does have quite good fuel economy, actually, from my experience. In fact, the Bentley has very good fuel economy as well. One of the reasons why I'm quite surprised that we haven't seen the Bentley here today, one of the better cars on fuel economy. But yeah, it could be that the Ferrari is planning to go, obviously, maybe one less pit stop, perhaps. And perhaps the fuel economy that the Ferrari has can play into the hands of that team. Of course, it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. But it was, after about 2 hours of the race, it was the Ferrari that was leading, and it's only really within the last hour, or, well, 2 hours really, that the Mercedes did get past the Ferrari and pull out this rather impressive gap.
Yeah, Nick, what do you actually think who's maybe racing for the win today?
I mean, obviously, we've seen a lot of impressive battles. We've seen a lot of gaps for first place. I mean, that 48 Ferrari was able to get huge gaps early on, getting a huge early lead, and that gap is obviously closed and even flipped on them. So it's interesting to see if maybe we're seeing a pit strategy. I mean, we're coming closer and closer to the halfway point of this 12-hour race, and a lot of the time you're going to see here is going to come into pit strategies and where they're going to push and where they're going to save, and maybe they're just looking for some opportunities to kind of conserve now and have a big blowout for the end of the race, because obviously at the 0 minute mark is where your position is going to matter the most, and I think we're going to see this battle rage on for the rest of these 7 hours and 40 minutes for sure.
Alright, and I've just been notified about a driver being ready for the interview, so I will pull him over now in our com box. So Diamond Ho, which is his Discord name, if you are ready for the interview now, please quickly tell us who you actually are. So what's your name that you're racing with, and also which team you're racing with if you are ready. So it doesn't look like that he's ready yet, so maybe we will just wait a bit and go on then with the usual commentating.
Yeah, definitely. As we're still following Dimov in this number 4 Porsche, as we're seeing a close three-way battle here, actually, for position 14 as we go through the S curves. Just continuing to show that this race will continue to be exciting for every single minute. We're going to see these battles keep stacking up. as they continue to fight for positions. The 894 Audi in front of them is actually the current Pro-Am leader in position 15th, fighting in the Pro bracket a little bit, kind of sandwiched between this BMW and Porsche as we're approaching the hairpin here. And we will see if maybe Dom can try to sneak past and kind of close what is left of this tiny gap they have left for them. Pulling in a spoon now.
Dimov definitely going to be frustrated having a Pro-Am car in front of him at the moment that he'll need to get past if he wants to have a go at Burgess for 14th place. But of course, Jork doesn't have to move out of the way. They are racing for overall position, so of course the Audi does not have to move out of the way, and of course if the Audi is quicker, or quick enough, he is entitled to hold his position. Just as I see that, I think we had backmarker off at 130R, the green Audi behind now as Dimov does go past York in the number for Porsche, so he's managed to gain a place, so York will continue onwards in the Audi and continue on with his Pro-Am race. As for Dimov, he is now going to look to close the gap back up to Burgess again. It's 1.4 seconds. And he's going to have to start closing that back up again. We've seen this for the last few minutes now, that Dimov was close behind Burgess, but he just couldn't quite find a way past. And that BMW is not an easy car to overtake.
Yeah, I think it's one of the widest cars there on the grid, and it's also quite long, so that makes it very hard to overtake. And also it has a very decent top speed. And it's actually, usually it's one of the weaker cars in the ACC spectrum, but it has its strengths in the fast corners and in the fast sections of every track, so that's why it's very hard to overtake a BMW.
And with this splitter cam that we have right now, you can actually see going into the hairpin there was so many tyre marks from people that been going heavy braking into the hairpin. Obviously some people locking up brakes and other people having some incidents as well. And you see kind of the same thing here at Spoon. And you get a great sense for the speed that these cars go at around this circuit from this camera angle as the Porsche comes out of Spoon now and onto the back straight. Closed about 0.4 of a second so far this lap to the BMW, so Dimov going really, really quick at the moment. But once he gets onto the back of the BMW, he's going to have to put all that speed to use.
Actually almost grabbing a little bit of grass as they go into the chicane, closing that gap on Bergs, seeing if he can gain this position as they're fighting in the Pro bracket for the 14th position. We will see if this persistence will pay off against this BMW that has been able to manage a very safe distance, but obviously that is quickly closing, and we will see if over the next couple of laps this will resolve in a overtake.
As you can see, Dimov closing the gap here throughout the S's. It's definitely clear that the Porsche is quicker than the BMW through the S's, and now as they come through Dunlop Curve, the BMW power starts to go down and he starts to pull away a bit from the Porsche. But I think it's going to be from this point onwards, the Porsche maybe a bit better over the curbs than the BMW is going to start to gain some of that pace back. But it's going to be in the second half of the lap where the BMW's power is going to be its greatest strength, but slow into the hairpin. The Porsche gains so much in the braking zone compared to the BMW. Dimov just so much braver on the brakes, it seems. And looking at the timing board on the left, we have a drive-through penalty for the AM class leader of Abrinosa, the number 9 Ferrari. So it's going to be very interesting to see if that is for track limits or if Mr. Jake Boswell in a few minutes' time can update us on that car.
And as we continue to watch this from this front bumper camera angle, it really doesn't get any closer for our viewers at home here. Just honestly, just sitting on the tarmac, waiting, watching this battle unfold. And you can just see every time that there is any straight, you can see the BMW peeling away.
It looks like that it works now. We've got another driver interview coming up. Sorry for interrupting you there, Nick.
All good?
Who are you?
Well, my name's Matteo Richter. I come from Sendit Squad team.
Which race number is that, and which class?
Pro AM and starting number 256.
All right, I found you. So you're teammates with Jan Matthias and Wojciech Birgus.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and how did the race went for you so far?
Well, the race has ended already, unfortunately, because when I had my stint, I was 3 laps into my stint, second stint actually, and I lost connection to the server, so everything went into the bin. When I relogged into the server, it was an absolute chaos. Even though my teammates were joined on the server, I didn't see them being online or connected, so that was quite the issue.
I see. So that's sadly the bad part about online racing and sim racing overall. That sometimes these things just happen, but well, it's like real racing with a technical what's it called again?
Difficulties.
Technical difficulties, yeah. It's just like real racing then, but yeah, that's sometimes very hard, especially if you've practiced very hard for the 12-hour race. Well, how long have you actually practiced for this race?
We did some practicing together, and I didn't do that much of practice, but my teammates has done a lot, so I feel sorry for them, for the whole team, because basically it was my fault.
Yeah, well, that's just sometimes happens, especially in online races. So don't put yourself too much under pressure there. But yeah, is it a new team that you just formed for this 12-hour Suzuka race, or do you exist longer?
Well, actually, we created a new team, but we have known each other for I don't know how long. We raced against each other in karts in Czech Republic, Slovakia, and so on. Mm-hmm. And so we're good friends, and we Jan Matthias and Wojciech Birgus have actually raced in the 2-hour first race or 3-hour, I'm not sure right now. And so I was yeah, I would like to race too. So we saw that the 12-hour of Suzuka the qualification race was open, registration, so we were yeah, let's go for it.
Oh, I just see from our information page that we have that you are actually racing in the real world as well as karting drivers.
Yeah.
How has that been for you?
Can you please what has been what for me? Sorry.
So how was the real racing stuff for you? I guess you come from the real racing to the sim racing.
Yeah.
So how was the real racing then for you?
Well, the real racing for me is actually really fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy it more than anything else. So I love it. I've been doing it for almost 6 years now, and it's a shame that we can't really race this year because of the whole virus situation going on right now. But I don't plan on stopping it anytime soon.
I see. So if my information are correct, then you started karting with the age of 10?
Yeah, something around the age of 10 or 11, I'm not sure actually.
Oh, that's quite young actually. Almost like F1 material then.
I wouldn't say so because it was actually quite late, and many people who I've raced with throughout my, like, I don't want to say career because I'm not doing it professionally. I have raced with people who started doing karting in like age of 4 or 5 years old, so that's actually pretty cool.
So I guess many sim racers want to do real racing in karts. So if you want, can you tell us how it is actually, how much does it actually cost you to race for a year in a karting league?
That's like a lot of money. For those 6 years, you could have had, or my family could have had a solid house, and it's like weird to say because I don't think about it that much. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I mean, you're still quite young, so you still have to find your own experiences, and I can understand why you can't really grab how much money that is.
Yeah, actually. So, but I really enjoy sim racing. That's like a nice thing to do when you're like, when you don't have actually anything to do. So, it's actually a good time or a good thing to do when you don't have anything to do.
So yeah, so you just transferred from the real racing to the sim racing. How long have you actually been sim racing for?
That's a good question. I've been doing it for I've been doing it for longer than I have actually been doing real life racing. But I don't know if you can consider playing F1 games as on. I guess you can.
I mean, I would count it as sim racing. I mean, of course, many people are there that say, yeah, the F1 games from Codemasters are just arcade games. But well, I would put it more in simcade genres.
Yeah, me too.
It's not a Need for Speed game, so you still have to watch out for your tires, your fuel. It's just not as refined as ACC maybe, but it's still a challenge.
Yeah, I like the game. So, if I should say for how long I've been doing it, I probably gonna say maybe 8 to 7 years.
Oh, so you've started with around 8 to 9 years then with your sim racing career.
Yeah, it's actually pretty fun.
Ah, cool. Yeah, okay. So thanks for having us here. No, actually, thanks for being here, Matteo.
Yeah, no problem.
It was fun learning more about your stuff, and it's always a pleasure to have actual real racing karters here. I don't really want to say racing drivers because that's still a bit of a different category.
Yeah.
But you're a real racing karter, of course. So
Yeah.
that's very interesting. As I guess most of sim racers don't actually either not have the money or the possibilities to do real racing stuff. So that's very cool.
Yes, thank you all for this event. I've really enjoyed being part of this and training for this event and everything around it. I have even built my own like sim rig in which I'm sitting right now, and I really enjoy being
Yeah, cool.
here, part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I mean, thanks also to your racers, because I already said it to the other driver that we interviewed earlier. But this event wouldn't be anything without the real drivers that are taking part in this.
Yeah, that's actually one cool thing, that you can actually race against real life drivers and you don't have to spend that much money on it.
So yeah, thanks for being there.
Yeah, thank you too.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, that was the Czech guy Matteo Richter for us here. So very interesting insights there from him, as he is a real karting driver. So yeah, Nick, what did you get from that interview?
You know, it's It's fascinating to me to always hear from somebody who their life and free time really revolves around racing, and you really see how a lot of times these drivers they start young, they start in karting, maybe they have a family member that gets them excited about it, and they get to kind of share that with them, and they get to grow inside of a racing community, and they get to grow with them, and that's always really fun to hear in any sport, honestly. But it's always interesting to hear them grow with racing. Going from karting to now having a full sim rig and racing with real life drivers in ACC. I mean, that's an incredible progression, and I can only imagine how that can make you feel when you really look at the journey.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. And now that we are at this topic, how did you actually came to sim racing, Nick?
I'm actually quite new to it. I've always watched racing, kind of passively. My family's always kind of had it on in the background at the family gatherings, and all the American races. You have F1 and all the GT racing classes, and just it's kind of always been in the background there. It's been fun to really jump in and be a part of a community that's built around this, and the RLM team, and the professionalism, honestly, to kind of see see the professionalism grow around a platform like ACC that can support something like this, where we can have all of these cars on the track with these incredible levels of realism, and the having actual engineers and real life drivers have it be even comparable on any level is just incredible to me.
Yeah, and I will always stand by, the saying, sim racing's for everyone. It doesn't really matter, what kind of background you come from or what sim racing, games you like. And obviously Fabian touched on, obviously that a lot of people don't really consider the F1 games to be sims as such, but, to be honest, that's okay. That's, it's fine to not be, super into the hardcore sim racing environment, and it's okay to want to play stuff like the F1 game and stuff that is maybe aimed a bit more at some people that just want to have some nice relaxing racing with something that's a bit more easy and should we say more approachable for new people as well. And there's nothing wrong with that, and you should never let anyone tell you otherwise. But as we look here, I think it is Tobias Geider who's looking to go up the inside of York at the moment through turns 1 and 2. The Lexus trying to get the better over the Audi, but he can't quite do so.
Yeah, I mean, without these more casual or SimKD games that we have, I wouldn't probably even doing this here right now, because I just started with the age of 6 playing Need for Speed Underground 2, which I absolutely still love to today. And that's what ignited my love for cars. And then I later started to get more into the Formula 1 games from Codemasters. So I'm actually quite glad that these games are there, because otherwise many of us wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Yes, that is very true.
And as we see, Tobias Geider just getting past there and moving up into 12th place. That was actually the move for the lead of the Pro-Am class. I didn't realise that until looking at it just now, but yeah, what you just saw there was a move for the lead in Pro-Am. So interesting to see now, and the Pro-Am field is quite split at the moment, isn't it? A lot of the Pro-Am drivers seem to be mixing it with the pros, and as we look much further down the grid, the first AM driver, in fact, is Diederich, all the way down in 23rd overall in the 253 Lexus. Lexus doing well in all the classes so far today.
I mean, the Lexus is kind of a bit like the Ferrari, a very good all-round solution. I don't think that it has any flaws whatsoever, but it's kind of more a general car. It also doesn't have really any advantages there. Apart from the race, maybe it's very good in the race actually. But it also has not really any flaws, which means that it's usually one of the best cars that you can pick in the game. You just need to have to like the driving style that you need to have for this car. But other than that, it's a very solid solution, really.
And of course, just looking now at the battle for P30 between the AM car of Wright and the Pro-Am car of Alessandro Porta. And Alessandro Porta, a driver that you and I, Fabian, are very familiar with.
Yes, I mean, we both commentated on the Porsche Cup Season 2, and, well, Alessandro Porta, was he the one that actually won the championship after all? I think he was it, yeah.
Yes, he was. He finished ahead of Danilo Santoro, was it?
No. Giacomo Proietti.
He finished ahead of Giacomo Proietti and
Daniele Flores was.
Daniele Flores, not Santoro. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's a bit hard to know all these Italian names.
Oh goodness, yeah. We have so many Italian drivers. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, we welcome everyone of any nationality. It doesn't matter where you're from, as long as you enjoy sim racing. You're all welcome here at Redline Motorsport. But yeah, the racing line cars, they definitely do love the Porsche Cup. We had quite a few racing line drivers, didn't we? Across the entire season.
Four full teams there. I think that's actually the team with the most cars here today. They are a very, very solid entity in Redline Motorsport now. I mean, they've been there from the beginning, basically, with their drivers, and I mean, they are such a very cool team, and I'm always in contact with their team manager, who is also a very cool guy. And once this lockdown shit is all over, I want to visit Italy once to visit those guys, because I love Italy so much. And it would be cool to just meet some other Redline Motorsports guys then.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. And of course, with all the stuff going on in the world at the moment, it's a shame that the real life racing has been suspended, but of course that has brought sim racing much more into the spotlight, and we are so very glad that despite all the things happening in the world, we can direct your attention elsewhere to something to take your mind off of all of that and enjoy some sim racing, because of course the cars might not be real, but the racing and the people behind them are definitely real.
Yes, very real indeed. And just a notice, there is a drive-through penalty on car number 88, Kallio Kujala. I am quite proud of myself for throwing that one out in one go. Is going to have to serve that drive-through at some point here pretty soon. I'm sure we'll be hearing a report from our own Jake Boswell soon about any penalties that we feel like we need to know about.
Oh, haven't heard a long time from him, haven't we? Have we? No. I'm not good with English today, sorry guys.
It is a tough language, as it turns out.
But yeah, what I actually was trying to say, that we haven't seen or heard of Jake Boswell in a while, and actually that's something good, but I just see a drive-through popping up for a team number 88 of the driver Tommy Kallio Kujala. So yeah, maybe that what you caught on the stream earlier.
Yes, exactly.
Of course, it could. Sorry, just cutting. It could be. Could obviously be track limits, of course. Important to remember that obviously the track limits are not enforced by the stewards; they are enforced by the server. So, of course, if people are taking liberties with cutting corners and such, that will be done automatically by the race server, and we don't clear those because, well, let's be honest, if you're having to track extend 4 times, then you're definitely pushing the boundaries of what an official race organizer would consider legal, so we let the server operate however it wishes. And just as we say that, Alessandro Porta, losing it on the middle of Spoon Corner, caught it very well to stay out of the gravel. And he has lost some time, but definitely did well to catch that one.
That was a proper initial D-drift. I just heard a deja vu in my head there as Alessandro Porter was drifting there. I mean, that was a perfect drift, and that was a GT3 car. Not everyone can pull that off.
Well, doing it for the cameras, I'm sure, but as we have a look up towards the front of the grid now, we have a look at Alvin Smith in 5th place at the moment. Of course, one of the racing Redline Motorsport cars, sorry. And yeah, this car has been doing well. Started outside the top 10, up into 5th place at the moment. In fact, all of the Ferraris in the top 10. So they're all going fairly well today.
Well, only one Ferrari is not in the top 10, which is from Apronosa P25, but that is also another class. So I think that you probably didn't count him then.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the pro class Ferrari. Sorry.
No worries, but yeah, you're actually right. All of the Ferraris from Pro Team here in the top 10, and we just see Alvin Smith going into the pit lane for his regular pit stop, I assume. Yeah, I mean, it's looking good for this Redline Motorsports Esports team.
Yeah, definitely going a lot better than the other Redline Motorsport team that we have operating here today. In fact, the other car is currently being driven by Chris Suzuka, the 999 Redline Motorsport Esports Honda. Of course, this was taken over by Vicky Thompson when we first started commentating. Of course, Chris and Dan Sosolski have both already had a stint in the car, but it is Chris now back in there, and they are into the top 15. Of course, this car did already have a drive-through penalty earlier on in the race, so they have been pegged back a bit, but doing well now at the moment to get back into a nice rhythm.
Yeah, and you guys can't capture how hard it is for us stewards to hand out a penalty for one of our own cars. I mean, obviously we try to be as what's the right word for that? I'm again missing words. We try to be
just even and fair with everybody.
Yeah, exactly, and try to be as independent as possible. But obviously we have our heart. We have those esports teams in our heart. But we have to be hard on them. We have to be. Maybe we are even harder on them than on other cars because we don't want to be unfair to the other drivers. So yeah, that's very hard for us to do, actually.
Well, if you think back to the 6 hours of the Nürburgring, we actually had to hand out a drive-through penalty to Chris Hook and James Parker, who were on course to win that race, but because of the drive-through penalty that they received, they didn't actually win the race. So it does just go to show we're not afraid to penalise our own drivers if necessary, and I'm sure James Parker and Chris were not too happy about the penalty that they got, but it was justified, and it did cost them the race in the end. So if there's any doubts out there as to if we're afraid to penalise our own drivers or not, no, we are definitely not. And in fact, as Fabian said, we might even be more harsh on them because they should know better.
I mean, that was a very wild race, that 6 hour race, because not only our Redline Esports car in the lead has gotten a penalty, but also another car in the lead, which was from Andre Franke, Mike Noble, and their other teammate I can't remember.
Jarkko Torvinen, who is one of our live stewards today.
So that is very ironic today then. But yeah, they also got a drive-through, I think even 2 or 3 drive-through penalties, so we are not shy of handing out drive-through penalties in these events.
Yeah, and that just goes to show the level of professionalism that RLM really strives for, and you might not see elsewhere, or maybe in a public lobby in ACC, where it's just kind of a tussle for the turn 1, and then just kind of a rough brawl for the rest of the race. So really pushing for that clean race. We want to see every car on the track get in their fair laps and set those strong times and be able to compete without worrying about getting thrown up at the track by someone behind them. I mean, you've seen in this race how close these drivers can be. I mean, they can be bumper to bumper for lap after lap after lap, and just maintain those lines, go for those safe passes, and that just really shows the caliber that we're dealing with here in a RLM sponsored race.
Yeah, totally. And now we are focusing on a car that probably some of you confused a bit. Because if you look at the driver name that is currently displayed on the left-hand side, there it says M. Schumacher, but it's actually not the Michael Schumacher, but it's Martin Schumacher for the GC Racing team in the Lexus. No. Wait, it's not a Lexus, it's a Mercedes. Sorry, I got confused because usually in previous events, I think GC Racing raced actually with Lexus cars. But yeah, now they are in the Mercedes, as it looks like. And in the chat, there is currently some talks about Ryan's favorite topic, the weather. So Ryan, do you have some information about the weather for us, maybe?
Actually, in fact, I don't have any information on the weather. The broadcasting view doesn't seem to give me any updated broadcast information, so would you happen to have any information, Fabian?
I accidentally put you under the bus there, but no worries, it isn't going to rain in the next 30 minutes, at least that's what the forecast says. But it looks still pretty dark, so I don't think that we don't see any rain, but as Simon already posted in the chat, no one knows because we've got basically random weather, as the weather is dynamic, so anything can happen. And we've seen that in the previous 2 hour of Suzuka race, where we haven't expected much rain, but there was much rain. I can guarantee you that there was much rain. We haven't seen that much rain in a while, but that wasn't expected. So sometimes the weather goes like you want it, but sometimes it surprises you.
Yeah, and something that I've definitely noticed is that there is no signs of any blue sky in the sky anymore. It was nice and sunny at the start of the race, and it has slowly got more cloudy over the course of the first 5 hours of this race. We're almost 5 hours in, my word. The time has really flown by, but yeah, the sky is getting darker and darker, more cars with their headlights on, so some of them may be hoping and expecting the rain to come at some point, but as we are just over an hour away from handing back over to commentary team 1, we will be handing back the keys to the comm box in just over an hour's time. It's looking pretty good out there, as we can see the Lexus of Mazet going very wide through Spoon Curve, and Martin Schumacher not being able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, but that also looked like a bit that he probably, so car number 128, gained a bit of time there, because he now has a bigger gap than before, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, if he did gain any time, the server will have given him a track limit warning, and of course if you pick up 4 of those, you will be finding yourself with a drive-through penalty, and that will not be cleared by the stewards, as any penalties given by the server are out of our control, so yeah, he's going to have to watch himself if that's what he's doing at the moment, but Martin Schumacher's not going to give up. He's going to go to the inside at turn 1, and he's going to get the move done nice and clean.
Wow, that looked very easy for the Mercedes there, actually, because it just almost looked like that was a DRS-assisted pass there, but these cars do not have DRS.
Yeah, and just slipping right past. I mean, like, that was just such a clean overtake in turn 1. Kind of exciting to see that resolve a little bit, to see Schumacher grab that 19th position that had clearly been fighting for the last few laps here.
And I tell you what, this is a battle that we've seen quite a lot throughout the stint that we've been covering here for the commentary. It's the number 4 Porsche following the number 72 BMW. This time, it's Grigorov in the car instead of Dimov, but it is still Burgess in the number 72 BMW, and that Porsche has still not found a way past.
Yeah, that BMW's rear is so wide. And now it's Grigorov's job to try to find a gap. I mean, there was one racing driver called Ayrton Senna who said, if you not go for a gap, you're not a racing driver. I mean, in my opinion, that's not a very good thing to say, because usually that is taken wrong by many people. But it's his job now to find these gaps, even if it's very little. And then he has to exploit this gap.
Yeah, and actually, as you say that, we have just noticed that 2nd and 3rd place are very close to each other. And in fact, they're under a second between each other, so a battle for the overall podium spots for 2nd and 3rd about to commence. We've also just been notified that we have a battle for 6th, 7th and 8th going on at the moment, so the race starting to come alive here towards the end of the 5th hour.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that often that there's actually a fight for the league in endurance races, as usually there are pretty large gaps between the front runners. But it's then if a close battle happens, it's even more awesome.
And in fact, we can see here it's 6th, 7th and 8th at the moment. It's Kurbanov, Parker and Selva all going at it. Of course, Patrick Selva, we've already talked about him and his efforts in the Season 2 championship here at RLM. James Parker, a very familiar name within the Redline Motorsports Discord, of course one of our very own esports drivers, and then Kurbanov for the Russian Bears Racing team. He's doing pretty well here today. I think they competed in the Nürburgring 6 hour as well. Fabian might be able to correct me on that one. But they seem to be doing really well at the moment in 6th place overall.
Yeah, this is a very good result. I mean, we haven't even reached half of the race yet, so a lot can happen still. So we don't want to try to curse a driver yet. It's our job in the last hour to curse drivers, but now we want to be a bit more patient and watch out how the race goes.
Yeah, it's exciting to see these battles continue to happen even in the middle of the race. Maybe you can kind of see people maybe trying to conserve a little bit, but I have not seen much conservation at all with all the battles that we've seen. This three-way battle here for 6th, 7th, and 8th. All different cars as well. It's been great to see so much variety, like really with so many Aston Martins on the field. At least 11 of them, if I'm not mistaken. But to hardly ever see a mirrored battle, you're just seeing overtake after overtake being different cars and different battles, and trying to see how the different drivers and their teams pushing their individual car in these battles and seeing what the result is going to be.
And as we see Kurbanov going a bit wide into the hairpin, James Parker was having a look at maybe going up the inside, but couldn't quite do it, and now his attention will be directed behind him as he has Patrick Selva in the Lexus right behind him. Patrick Selva looking to the right-hand side as we come towards Spoon, going to switch back to the left. He's going to go up the inside of James Parker, and coming to the exit of Spoon, he is going to get the move done nice and clean there from Patrick Selva.
Patrick Selva is, I think he is teammates with Paulo Muya. Yes, he is, and he's also a very, very fast driver. I mean, if he's in a team with Paulo Muya, he has to be a fast driver, because Muya obviously wants the fastest of the fastest in his teams. And I think he's also, they are also one of the 4 two-driver teams. If I am not mistaken, yes, they are a solely Italian two drivers team with their team name Racing on 3 Black. So it's Racing on 3 is actually another team that has, I think, 3 cars here today, which is Racing on 3 Black. And I now look on my spotter guide to find the other ones, but it's actually not that easy. But I think I'm pretty sure that there are 2 other Racing on 3 teams there.
And you can see Silva here not giving Kurbanov any breathing room and just ready to take that 6th position with Parker not too far behind either. And yeah, we can see that the Silva and Moya duo has been racing very aggressively this entire time. All of these battles ending up in just very close, groups of laps that they're racing up against people, able to take over every kind of car. And we're going to see him. He's going to take the inside with a little bit of a tap, but he's going to keep fighting through the hairpin, coming into the spoon in just a second here. Let's see if Silva can find an opening on the inside again, and just waiting for any kind of mistake or anything, or maybe just a little bit of a late break. Going for the inside again and just keeping the pressure on Kurbanov. Is going to sneak right past him. Look at that, just how aggressive that team has managed to stay. The 666 Lexus taking another position.
Yeah, and it was a carbon copy move of what he did to James Parker on the lap before. So Patrick Silva pulling off 2 incredible moves in consecutive laps, and of course that now means that Kurbanov is under pressure from James Parker behind. The Mercedes definitely feeling the heat now as he's gone slightly wide into the final chicane. That's compromised his exit, and James Parker is going to be right onto the back of him. The Lexus of Patrick Silva starting to pull away.
You just hear the roar of the Russian bear. He was angry. He wanted to gain some ground in that chicane and just could not quite pull it off. As Silva is just going to pull away just a little bit here, and just got his sights set on the next position, which looks to be James Baldwin just ahead of him there, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, sorry, that's Miller.
Well, the position that he will be hunting down, in fact, 4th position, will actually be James Baldwin. It might not be the car in front of him on track, but James Baldwin in the AAA Aston Martin is definitely going to be Patrick Silva's next target, and of course that car being shared with Josh Martin and David Perel, so it's going to be very interesting. Actually, there's a 4th driver in the 888 Aston Martin.
That is wrong information on the spotter guide, because they changed it very recently. That I think it was Super GT who was supposed to race in that team as well, but apparently he can't compete today, sadly.
Oh, that's a shame, as we see Kurbanov and James Parker going side by side out the hairpin. Slight touch between the Mercedes and the Ferrari. James Parker flashing his lights in frustration at not being able to get past the Russian Bears Mercedes. And Kurbanov definitely feeling the heat now as we come to the exit of Spoon Corner. James Parker is going to tuck in behind the Mercedes as they run up towards 130R. The Ferrari not really that good in a straight line. It needs some good slipstream to be able to overtake something, especially a power-hungry car like the Mercedes, as they come down towards the Casio chicane now. The Mercedes goes very, very deep again. James Parker right on the back of that Mercedes as they come out of the final corner. He's going to have another run down the long front straight. But I don't think that Ferrari is going to have the straight line speed, even with the slipstream, to get past the Mercedes.
Yeah, I think the play for the Ferrari at this point would be to either just keep being aggressive like that, or just wait maybe for the Russian Bear car driver number 88 to maybe make a mistake and see if the Ferrari can really capitalize on that scrappy nature of the Ferrari and try to get past this massive Mercedes that he's trying to get around.
Yeah, and just noticing here on the timing board that Steve Strello, the Strello brothers, have caught up to 3rd place. So here we are, battle for the podium is well and truly on now. We knew that the Strello brothers would be well and up there in the chance for a podium here today, and that has materialized itself with 6 hours and 55 minutes of the race to go. The Aston Martin of Steve Strello is now right on the back of the podium places.
And I can tell you guys that Steve Strello is on fire now. He's actually around a second faster than the car in front of him with Benny Benzel, and he's trying to move there. Is he going for it? Yes!
Gone round the outside of the Mercedes.
That was amazing. I mean, that looked almost easy.
Well, maybe the number 4, well, maybe the 4th place Mercedes, the number 12 Mercedes more accurately, maybe just giving up the position into the first Stegner. It's not really a popular overtaking spot there, especially not around the outside. So the Mercedes may be playing the long game, thinking of letting Strello go, and maybe hoping to regain that place later in the race. As we do switch back now to James Parker, who comes out of the final corner on the back of Kurbanov yet again. Is he going to have the pace down into turn 1 to get past the Mercedes? It doesn't look like it, and I think James Parker is going to have to spend another lap behind this Mercedes.
You can see the Mercedes can just pull away on the straights, and what we're looking for here out of Parker is possibly just an aggressive overtake like we've seen. I mean, we just watched Strello take the widest outside pass like that we've probably seen all race. Like, that was just incredible to watch. And to see these tight battles up in the top 10 is going to continue to be exciting. Even into the middle of the race, they are not going to let up, and you're going to see Parker make a little bit of contact, going for the wide shot, but not quite. The Mercedes staying pretty steady through there as they are going to approach the hairpin and continue this very tight battle here.
Yeah, and you saw James Parker was going to have a look to go around the outside of the first Stegner, but just couldn't quite hold it, didn't quite have the pace to go around the outside of the Mercedes. Like I said, it's not a popular overtaking spot. And as they come towards Spoon now, James Parker, this is the part of the lap where the Ferrari will struggle compared to the Mercedes. A very long straight out of Spoon, and realistically, for James Parker to get an overtake here, he needs the Mercedes to have a really, really poor exit.
And we also saw some like a little bit of brake checking from Kurbanov there to make sure Parker is staying behind him rather than in front of him. And we're going to see where the Ferrari might be at a slight disadvantage, but he is not going to let that slow him down as they approach the chicane, keeping that gap as tight as possible. Going onto the main straight here.
Yeah, and you see how much James Parker struggles to go in front of Kurbanov, sorry. I mean, that's one of the main issues with the Ferrari, probably, especially against cars like Lexus or Mercedes or BMW, because it is not very fast on the straights.
Yeah, it definitely struggles compared to some of the other cars, but now as we're into the S's, James Parker right on the back of the Mercedes. You can see where he's being held up by the Russian Bears Mercedes of Kurbanov right now, and as we come through the Dunlop curve and up towards the first Stegner, he's going to have a good run, but nowhere near close enough for a move around here. And if he can't get a move done into the hairpin, I get the feeling that James Parker is going to have to wait until turn 1 again to even have a chance at a move.
Yeah, or even has to wait for his race strategy to kick in. Maybe he stops a bit earlier or waits a bit longer with his stop, because maybe he can't pass him on track. Maybe he needs to do that in the pits. So a good strategy, probably. I mean, I'm not the one to tell James Parker how to drive, but maybe the right thing for James Parker to do right now is, if he can't overtake him, he's pretty close actually now. So maybe the slipstream is enough now. He tries to go on the outside, but you see the Mercedes is quick. the Mercedes is too quick. Once you go out of the slipstream, the Ferrari is instantly as fast as the Mercedes again. That's not enough to pass someone.
Yeah, we saw a mistake there, obviously, from Kurbanov, and you got a poor exit out of Spoon, but even with the poor exit, the Mercedes just still had the straight line speed over the Ferrari. And like you said, Fabian, as soon as the Ferrari pulled out from the slipstream, he just lost all the pace that he'd gathered, and that has put him right back to where he started, behind the Mercedes.
Yeah, and that brings me back to what I initially wanted to say, that maybe he should save some fuel now in the parts where the Ferrari is much faster, like in the S-curves. Save some fuel there to not have to put in as much fuel in the pit stops. So maybe his stop can be a little bit shorter then. So maybe that's the right way to go for him now. I mean, I'm no expert, but that's what I think might help James Parker there.
Yeah, well, as James Parker continues to try and get past, I mean, even the Lexus behind, which, looking at the timing board, that Lexus is a back marker. It seems that the Lexus, is also stuck on the back of these two. He's not really dropping off from them as James Parker goes wide into the hairpin, maybe looking to have a bit of a switchback onto the Mercedes, but the Mercedes just too good out of the corners compared to the Ferrari. And as we come back up towards Spoon, James Parker, he's going to have to hope that Kurbanov gets a very bad exit from Spoon again to even have a chance at an overtake here.
Yeah, and just one quick note about Steve Strelo, actually. Not wanting to go away from the battle that we see on screen, but just a quick note. Steve Strelo is actually closing the gap down to Ciriello in front of him. So he is very rapid, and I think he can go for P2 in his stint now.
That's going to be very interesting to watch. We'll have to keep an eye on that gap at the moment, but the closest battle on track right now is definitely this one, or rather than a battle, it just seems like torture for James Parker, but he gets a good exit out of the final corner compared to the Mercedes, but he's just not going to have the pace, as you can see the Mercedes pulling away in a straight line, even with the slipstream that the Ferrari has. It just cannot keep pace with the Mercedes.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
At this point, I mean, you're watching them battle. This is Parker taking it off the S curve with a little bit of a tap, but he's able to get ahead. That was the mistake that he was waiting for. That was the opportunity that opened up, and he took it. That is amazing.
And he waited so long for that one opportunity, but he exploited the error, the mistake of Kurbanov perfectly. That's how you do it.
Well, it took him long enough to get it done, but as I look down towards the Ready for Interview channel, Fabian, I think we have a couple of people waiting to talk to us.
You are actually right. I was so invested in the battle that we had that I actually forgot about them, so I will pull in Marcus Lawrence then. Actually, sorry, I have to assign him the right role, actually, before I pull him in. Okay. So, Marcus Lawrence, so now you should be able to talk to us.
Hello.
So, as you have a very easy Discord name for us, not like other guys before, we know how you're actually called on the game, which is Marcus Lawrence.
That's the idea.
Can you quickly tell us which team you're from?
PCDC Motorsports and number 12. We're currently P4.
Ah, you're from P4, so you've currently been passed by Steve Strelo a few laps ago.
He was insane.
Yeah, he was insane. I mean, we have caught that on stream, and Steve Strelo is very hot right now as he's trying to hunt P2 down.
Yeah.
But that's enough with Steve Strelo now, because you're now here to do the driver interview. So you're now in P4. Where did you actually start the race?
We started P5.
P5, so you not have moved places that much, but you still gained a place. So that's a very good effort.
We actually lost one place on the start, but we managed to gain it back, and then we were in a train with James Baldwin, and I think it was maybe a BMW, I think, as well.
Okay, so how did the race go for you, actually? As we just see Benny Benzel, your teammate, going wide in the chicane, so not good to see for you, but
No.
I don't think that he lost a place out of that.
No, we've got a pretty big gap to P5 at the moment.
It seems like he's slowed down enough to not pick up a drive-through penalty as well, so
Yeah.
correct course of action being taken there.
Yeah. Always good to be safe.
So yeah, how did the race actually go for you guys?
Yeah, it's going pretty well so far. So Vincent started the race, and he did a double stint. Then I went in for the third stint. I think I got past. I think it was A888, the David Pearl's team in Sector 1, I think, just at the start of my stint. I had a bit better pace than him, and I managed to pull a pretty big gap. I had a pretty lonely race, lonely stint, I mean, from that point. Gave it back to Vincent, and he was catching P2 for quite a while. We came out of the pits pretty close, but Benny seems to be struggling a little bit at the moment, and that's our race so far.
So why do you think does Benny struggle a bit?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't like to say. Tires, maybe?
Tires, okay. So maybe he attacks his tires a bit too much then?
Maybe. Not really sure.
Yeah, okay, so
I
as he
need to speak to him.
As he actually started P5, I guess you already had high ambitions for the race. What actually was your goal for this race?
So the last Bathurst race, I think Vincent's car got P3, and in Nürburgring as well, his car got P3. Anything similar would be good.
So you're aiming for a podium then?
We would, ideally want a podium, but I'll be happy to finish and be inside the top 10.
Yeah, so you picked the Mercedes as your car for this event. Why actually? Because it has a disadvantage with the fuel that it uses, because it uses so much. But why did you actually use the Mercedes then?
I disagree. We're actually not even using all of our fuel. We've actually put our map back to 1 for parts of the race, because we're finishing stints with like 17 liters still left.
Oh, that's very interesting to hear, because before we had any Mercedes driver here, we speculated that you maybe had some stint. You had maybe issues to reach the 73-minute stint limit, and
no,
you had to pit
not for
more
us.
often. So, but you could extend the stints to 73 minutes then.
Yeah, we could probably go a tiny bit longer than that, but yeah, you've got to stay within the stint limit. So, but we can easily match that.
Okay, so your strategy is then to go for 10 stints with 9 stops then, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. Off the top of my head, I'm not really sure. I think we're just going to try and go to as close as possible to the stint timer. And we're not really sure when we're going to do our double stint on the tyres yet. We're going to try and leave it as late as possible. Might rain, and then we wouldn't need to worry about that, but we'll have to see how it goes.
All right, so as you have a very interesting team name, I would say, PCDC Motorsports, it reminds me a little bit of ACDC. So
Yeah.
what's your actual? Why are you actually called PCDC? Does it have a meaning?
Well, it actually was born out of Project Cars. That's why the group was started in the first place, the first Project Cars. And then as time went on, and a lot of our members and our community move on to different sims. So we're mainly iRacing and ACC at the moment. Mm-hmm. And we kind of wanted to keep the PCDC name for what's the word, consistency. We didn't want to change name just because we've been changing the game. So we're just called PCDC Motorsport. Doesn't mean anything. It's just that's what we're going to be called.
Well, I guess PC means Project Cars, but does the DC mean actually anything else then?
Drivers Club.
Ah, so the Project Cars Drivers Club then. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you started in Project Cars 1, I guess, or was it Project Cars 2?
It was both. But we don't even do Project Cars anymore. We don't actually identify us as Project Cars Drivers Club anymore. It's just PCDC.
So you know yourselves, or you know your other team members already for a bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So that was the interview with you, with Marcus Lawrence. Then, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Especially one of the top 10 drivers or top 10 teams. It's always very, very interesting to hear your insights.
Yeah.
Because now we know that the Mercedes doesn't have a fuel disadvantage. So thanks
Not
for the
us.
insights.
Not for us, anyway.
So thanks for joining us. Have a good race still. Good luck for you.
Thank you.
Probably see you after the race.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you later.
Goodbye. So yeah, that was Marcus Lawrence from the PCDC Motorsports team for you. Currently in P4, if they are still in P4. Yeah, looks like it. But the gap to P3 has grown a lot since Steve Strelo overtook them, and well, you already have seen it for a long time during the interview, but Strelo is very, very close to P2 now.
You can just see Strelo hungry for another position, trying to take second here. That gap closing so fast. The Strelo brothers proving that they are ready for the podium and they can easily take it if they keep up the pace that they are maintaining. You know, moving into the halfway point of this race, trying to get a little bit of ground gained on P2 Cirello and this 715 Ferrari. And we will see how these other duels have gone to see the Aston in the back try to take over a Ferrari. You know, we've seen that Strelo can play aggressive with those crazy overtakes, and can see if he can gain that ground that the Ferrari seem to be lacking in the straightaways, and see if we can get a second position out of him.
Yeah, I mean, if I guess he's already in the mood to like to attack someone. He seems to be very, very. I don't want to say aggressive, but I guess he's in a play mood to want to know what his opponents can do. Because if you start to overtake other cars on the track, you somehow get into the rhythm of it, and you want to see more overtakes from yourself. So I guess he's now hungry for more overtakes, Steve Strelo.
Yeah, we can see him gaining a little bit of ground, maybe in the chicane, and the Ferrari actually having a nice pull out onto the main straight here, gaining that ground that we were not seeing in the Ferrari versus Mercedes battle just a few moments ago. And we can see how he can maybe gain some ground in the S-curves here. But you know, keeping up the pressure, you can definitely see this battle is going to continue going on, waiting for one of them to maybe make a slight miscalculation, or just show they're just going to be slightly more consistent. But I mean, we're talking about the, you know, one of the top two teams that we've had all day, you know, just battling for first and second, you know, along with the 191 Mercedes up in front currently, and I think we will continue to see this battle kind of unfold.
Yeah, and someone in the chat asked us how the lap times are for the top three runners. So I already wrote it in the chat, but I will repeat it for the guys that maybe do not read the chat. They're actually quite close together. So the last lap times are for car number 191 was a 2 minutes dead 0.7, so 2 minutes 0.7. Then P2 2 minutes 0.9 and P3 2 minutes 0.9. So well, as they are driving one after another, P2 and P3, they are obviously going to drive around the same lap times now. That obviously then changes if either one of them makes a mistake or if P3 can overtake P2, but it doesn't look like it currently, because, well, I don't think that the Aston has a straight line advantage. They should be around the same top speed. So the Aston driver of Steve Strelo then only has the slipstream where he can gain some time. But that's not always very helpful. Sometimes you wish you had you have more slipstream. And if you compare those cars, it actually looks like that the Ferrari is a little bit flatter than the Aston, so that should be easier to not have that much drag from the Aston.
Absolutely. As we're coming out of the S-curves now, there might be a little bit of traffic up ahead of them. Maybe we can kind of see how this is going to mix up this battle that we're seeing for second place, the podium positions. And might see them try to gain some ground on Troy Barman up in pole position. And we will see how that unfolds as they're approaching. A little bit of traffic coming up here. Coming into the hairpin.
It looks like that Steve Strelo now is a bit more patient than in the overtake before against P3. Seems to wait a bit more than before, just like we've seen with James Parker. But patience most of the times pays out. And they also have a blue flag car that they need to overtake, so that might be another element for Steve Strelo to gain an advantage on the car in front of him.
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen a lot of the Aston Martin drivers in Season 2 complain about was the fact that the Aston Martin wasn't very good coming out of the slower corners. It was, incredibly slow, and I think it was at the Hungaroring that James Parker said that it was almost impossible for the Aston Martin to overtake a Ferrari because of how good the Ferrari was out of the slower corners. And I think you are starting to see some of that here as coming out of the chicane, Chiarello gets a great exit compared to Steve Strelo, and it seems to be in some of the mid-speed corners that the Aston Martin does gain back up on the Ferrari. Of course, the Ferrari and the Aston Martin, not the greatest with straight-line speed. So the slipstream effect that the Aston Martin gets in behind the Ferrari is a lot more powerful than what it would get if it was chasing down a Mercedes.
Yeah, and you can see them approaching a little more traffic up in front. Maybe Strelo is looking for that opportunity to maybe grab a little bit of ground here as they can kind of compress into the back of
and he's going for the inside.
And he takes it just like that.
Amazing.
On the outside, just like he did with taking position 3, just passing right there. How? Just absolutely crazy. Like Strelo wasn't even moving for a second. And just how consistent they've been so far with that.
Yeah, that's like Steve Strelo just showed us. This is one way to overtake someone. If you get caught up behind back markers, you can use them to maybe confuse your opponent a bit, and maybe Cirillo also slept a bit there while he was going behind the back markers. Maybe he wanted to wait a bit longer, and that was perfect opportunity for Steve Strelo. And often it's also the corners that you usually don't expect someone to overtake you to be the best opportunities for you. Because then you don't always focus on the rear mirror, and you don't know where your opponent is coming from. But now that Steve Strelo is P2, it's his mission to maybe attack P1. So maybe we will see a battle for P1 in an hour or two, because there still is currently a gap. I don't know how big the gap between P1 and P2 is. It should be around 30 seconds or more, I guess. That's just an estimation, though. We don't have any sector informations yet. But looking at where they are on the track, I think the Mercedes of Barman is currently coming out of the spoon corner. And Strelo is just in the first sector in the S's. So Barman is around half a lap in front of him, which would be around a minute. So it is definitely a hard task for Strelo, but if anyone can do it, I think it is Strelo then.
especially at this point with just so much momentum that team has been able to carry into this almost midway point of this 12-hour race, just climbing those ranks, and now he's got his sights set on pole position. And yeah, like you said, I think we can see that battle unfolding at some point in the next few hours.
Well, one of the ways you can look at it is that in 5.5 hours, the leading Mercedes has managed to make a gap of about half a lap. The reality of the situation is now you have just about 6.5 hours to close that gap down and get past him, so definitely doable. And of course, with the pace that the Strello brothers have, it's more than doable for those two, but it'll be interesting to see how that progresses throughout the race. Here's a very familiar sight though. Haven't we seen this BMW, Audi and Porsche before?
Absolutely have, and we can see just another big stack of cars rolling, being consistent through these corners and fighting for those positions.
And it seems that since the last time we had a look at how the number 72 BMW and number 4 Porsche were doing, we were watching to see if Grigorov could get past Burgess in the 72 BMW. The answer is no, not yet. The BMW is still ahead. Oof, as the number 4 Porsche has a look at going on Mitja Bonker from the BWT Muka Motorsport team. Of course, he's partnered up with Wolf Matuszka today. And the Porsche looking to get past, but not quite finding a gap yet.
Yeah, it's now the same game that we had before with James Parker and Steve Trailer as well. It's the game of finding the gap against the car in front of you, but now we have an even more interesting situation maybe, because we have 3 cars that are around the same pace, which always makes it a bit interesting, because you then have the very interesting situation of the car in front of all of them has to defend against 2 cars. The car in the middle has to attack and has to defend at the same time, and the car behind can watch behind, wait, and see if anything happens in front of him. So that is a very interesting situation they are in right now. And now also something that I just forgot to mention, the 3rd car in this row has basically called the double slipstream, which is a bit more powerful than the normal slipstream that you get from just one car. So this can also lead to some very interesting situations.
Yeah, definitely can, of course, because you have the car in front of you, which is obviously getting a slipstream from the car ahead, but then of course you're getting, like Fabian said, the double slipstream, which means, you know, you're going off of the pace of the car directly in front of you, so that gives you even more of a boost, because you essentially have 2 windbreaks in front of you to create a hole in the air. And we see it a lot at circuits like Monza in qualifying, where people don't tend to want to go first in qualifying, so you know, at tracks like Monza and that with long straights, you tend to find that if you can catch a double slipstream, it can give you a great chance at things like pole position, but in the race it can definitely help you a lot. But just looking here, the number 72 BMW seems to be pulling away slightly from the Audi and the Porsche.
Yeah, maybe it's just a good sector for him. So obviously, as these are different cars, they are the SRO tries to be as close to have as close cars as possible. But as these are different cars with different engine characteristics and different engine placements, they have different strengths and weaknesses, which means that on one sector one car can be good and the other car is good. But the Porsche of Grigorov now had a very good run through corner 130R against Wolf Matuszka's car number 25, but that wasn't enough to attack him in front. But maybe he can place him behind him to attack on the main straight. But I guess he is still too far away, and the BMW, as Ryan just said, seems to have opened up the gap behind him a bit.
Yeah, you can see in this particular battle going on, the BMW can just gain ground and just kind of create that cushion as Reverb and Bonka are fighting for 13th behind Bergs here.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you have to watch out in three-way battles as well. If you are getting caught up in a battle for one position, you obviously lose time because you can't race on your usual racing line. You have to drive a bit a different line to defend yourself. But that means that it is a bit slower and the car in front can escape. To be honest, I'm quite amazed that we haven't seen that many overtakes at the hairpin, which is usually the best corner to overtake someone on, at least in my opinion. But we have seen many overtakes on other corners, like Dagner 1, for example, which I totally didn't think that there would be a overtake happening, or one of the S curves as well. So many surprises today.
Yeah, really the Degner curve being the surprise VIP spot for exciting overtakes in this race so far. Something that probably nobody expected. Probably the same thing that we were seeing with the Ferraris in the Super Pole event, taking those top spots. It's those surprises that make these kinds of races exciting for the entire 12 hours that they go on for.
Yeah, and the only thing I want to see more than a Dagner 1 overtake is actually a 130R overtake. That would be pretty amazing, but I don't think that this will happen, because that is a corner where you usually really don't want to overtake someone.
And just to bring the conversation over to something that will become a lot more relevant later on in the race, it will become much more relevant particularly when we come back to commentating much later on in the race, which is how different a race can feel going into the dark. And this is something we haven't really touched on too much, which is that it will get dark here soon. It's almost 6 o'clock local time in Japan at the moment for the race, but of course the race will be finishing past midnight, which means that in a few hours' time, it's going to be getting very, very dark around here. And as a lot of people know, a racing circuit becomes an entirely different challenge in the dark.
That's definitely true, Ryan. I mean, you have dropping temperatures, which is always very interesting. Sometimes some cars can go faster with dropping temperatures. Sometimes they are faster. It really depends on cars sometimes, or tires. Then you also have the issue that sometimes the grip levels change. Currently we should be at optimum conditions, which is true, yeah. But sometimes when it's cold outside, the track conditions actually change a bit. So you don't have optimum rubber conditions anymore, which just makes it even more challenging. And if it then starts to rain as well, this will just be the cherry on the top of the cake.
Oh yes, I've been waiting for that announcement that there is some water hitting the track. Even if it's unlikely, I'm gonna keep wishing for it, because you know what? That's gonna be the twist that just, as if this race can get any more exciting, it just adds another layer to this wonderful cake that we're watching right now.
Well, it was the Kyalami 9-hour, wasn't it, in 2019, the last race of the Intercontinental Championship, that went into the nighttime, and they actually had a thunderstorm at Kyalami towards the end of the race, which was very, very interesting. Obviously, most of that was under safety car conditions. None of that here, I'm afraid. We don't have a safety car to put out there, which, to be honest, will be good for our enjoyment, because I think a lot of people out here today in the chat, and us especially as commentators, would love to see people racing in the wet around here in the dark. I think it would be an absolute treat, and we'd get some very nice pictures out here. Of course, a lot of the drivers are going to be hoping it stays dry, but we'll just have to see what the weather throws up within the next 6 hours.
And as we've just been talking about the night that is coming, I just noticed that we already almost have half of the race being finished, which means that in 20 minutes we have to leave the com box and switch over to team 1. well, I actually just started to get comfortable in here, and now we have to leave again. But we still have 20 minutes, and after that we will have another stint of Combox Team 2 for your enjoyment. But the time has passed so quickly. I mean, I in my mind the race just started.
And we've seen these consistent battles going on. I mean, we are just getting to enjoy this nice train of GT3 cars go around Suzuka right here. I mean, and this is just playing right into what we've been experiencing so far. We're experiencing just tight races. These are fun battles, and we're seeing a lot of interaction, honestly. And that's just gonna continue, I feel, past the half-hour mark with a bit of contact here, throwing Donardo off into the grass. I believe our stewards are going to be a little busy with that for a second. That looked a little aggressive.
As if our stewards wouldn't already been under pressure the whole time.
Yeah, very true. It's been a very interesting race for our steward team, as I'm sure Fabian knows. But yeah, we'll have to hear the report back from Jake Boswell about that one, I am sure.
Yeah, we haven't heard of him in a long time, and I already said that around 20 minutes ago. But it's actually good for us if we don't hear a lot of him. I mean, I like his voice, but if he's coming into the combox, that usually means that there's trouble coming up for drivers. So always good to let him stand in front of the combox and then join us.
Yeah, well, if he's not coming into the combox on a regular basis, it means everyone out there is behaving themselves. So it's nice to know that the race, in terms of incidents, has quietened down a bit, and obviously we'll hope that that will continue for the remaining 6 hours and 19 minutes of this race.
Currently we're watching Ivailo Grigorov again. We have seen him a lot previously. I think he was battling... Who was he battling against again? Wasn't he battling with Berges? Car number 72.
Yes, he was, who has actually slid down a couple of positions there, as Grigorov has his sights set on Bonka ahead of him here in the 25 Audi, Matushka's team there. And we can see, as they go into S-curves, if that is going to continue. It's been interesting to see. Grigorov, the number 4 Porsche, has been involved in a lot of these battles in the middle ground of this race. Kind of fighting, going back into different positions. But you know, definitely keeping it very entertaining for us.
Oh yeah, and now we're watching Corentin Berges here. I even still don't know how to correctly pronounce his name, but I suppose he's French, which he is, so I think something like Berges. But yeah, and now we are following car number 111, who we had his teammate in of team number 111, Team PCF. We previously had Johannes Wiese here, telling us about his team a bit more. And it looks like that they are battling with the dev team, but that battle is already over.
It seems the 111 car coming into the pit lane. Obviously, he was following the Kunos Racing Team 778 BMW, which is currently being driven by Aris. And I've just seen the number 17 Aston Martin pick up a drive-through penalty, but not entirely sure if that's for an incident or if that is for track limits. But I'm assuming if it's for an incident, we will find out from Jake Boswell. Well, 6 hours and 15 minutes of this race left to go. Well, almost 6 hours and 15 minutes of this race left to go. It is currently the 191 Racing Line Motorsport Mercedes that leads the way, currently being driven by Troy Barman. This car was previously driven by Samuel Ratz and Kevin Siclari. Leading the way at the front, he's got a significant gap behind to Steve Streller, who is just about to come out the last corner and towards the timing line, so still got a significant gap to close to Troy Barman ahead, but you can guarantee that Steve Strello and his brother Ray Strello are going to try their very best to close the gap, and hopefully we can have a battle for the win towards the end of this race.
That's true. Just looking at their last lap times, I mean, those of course could have been influenced by some bootlegged cars, but just looking at them to see if they come closer, and they really do, as Steve Strelo did a 2 minutes 0.5, and Troy Barman in first place did a 2 minutes 1.2. So Steve Strelo was 7 tenths faster than him. If he continue to do that on a regular basis, then he will have him in around 70 laps, I suppose. 70, 80, 90 laps, something around that. That should mean around 2 to 3 hours maybe, if he can continue with that pace. But obviously, they will change their drivers also. So Steve Strehler will switch to his brother, who I am looking for his name again because I've lost it. Reich Strehler it was, yeah, sorry for that. And Troy Barman will also switch his car over to another driver, so maybe the current dynamic will change once they change the drivers.
Yeah, and definitely, and as we're going into the lower dusk here, and the temperatures will start dropping as we go into nighttime. I mean, we might start seeing some different flavors kind of coming out of Suzuka today, kind of see how our teams on the track are adapting to the, dynamic weather system. Might even see a little bit of rain. I'm gonna keep saying it because I want it to happen. It might happen. So we'll have to see how they transition into the second half of what has proven to be a very exciting race so far.
I mean, a 12-hour race, I think, is always going to be exciting because you always have some action anywhere around the track, and it also makes it very interesting because we are not racing on a big track like the Nordschleife, but on a very not very small, but a rather small circuit in comparison to the Nordschleife. But with 52, or currently it is around 44 cars, I suppose. So 44 cars on a track like that, that always involves some close action.
Yes, great, awesome stuff. So, as our first shift, the second part of our today's race. Fabian, what are we taking away from the race so far?
We have been taking away that car number 191 with Kevin Siclari, Troy Barman, and his two other teammates Samuel Ratz and Giuseppe Montalbano are very, very fast with their Mercedes. And we also know that supposedly from car number 12 with Benny Benzel currently driving from PCDC Motorsports team, that the Mercedes doesn't have any fuel issues. So that means that they probably are a team that can fight for the win, obviously, as they are P1 currently. And they shouldn't be very hindered by the strategy at all. Then we've got a very fast team with the Strehler brothers behind them, which their team name is actually the Lappen Party. So this is car number 22, and they are rapidly quick. They are closing down the gap a lot. I mean, the last lap times of Troy Barman was 2 minute 1.9, and Steve Strehler did a 2 minute 5. So 2 minutes 0.5. So he was around 1.5 seconds faster than him. So I guess this will get down in history, in Redline Motorsport history, as a very interesting battle in the next few hours. So stay tuned. This will get very interesting.
Yes, definitely. And the 191 Mercedes, the team is solid, and they've proven that in the first half of this race, but it is far from over. We have another 6 hours of exciting racing, and I think the Strello brothers have a solid shot to take that pole position from them.
Yeah, but I wonder how driving fatigue actually affects them. Well, as they are a two-man team and car number 191 in P1 is a four-man team, they obviously have more drivers to cover the 12 hours, which means that every driver only has to drive 3 hours. But car number 22, they have actually 6 hours for every driver, so maybe they will have some fatigue coming later in the race, and maybe that will affect them.
Possibly, and if I may play devil's advocate for you just a moment, you can also argue that having two members on your team, it means that you can just get into a groove. I mean, we have seen Steve Strello can just grab positions like this and just gain that momentum and stay on the track and just keep fighting. So, I mean, they might be just fighting for the momentum game where they can just get the ball rolling and keep it rolling until they're in the number one position and winning this race, and you know, they are well on their way, and we will definitely see as we go into the second half, the night phase, if you will, of this race. We will definitely see how those two very different and contrasting strategies are going to play out for both of these teams.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point that you just mentioned, that with two drivers in one team, you actually have more groove and you have a better rhythm. So yeah, it could be either way. So let's see in the next 6 hours then how it will go for both of these teams. It definitely will be very interesting because nothing is set so far, and maybe we will see another team that is coming from the back that will join those two teams to drive for the race win. I mean, currently looking at other teams' lap times, we don't have any team that can compete with Steve Strello's lap times. He's a second a lap faster than any other driver out there currently. But maybe the other teams still have another driver in their basket to pull out in the next 6 hours and to close the gap down to the Strello team.
Yeah, now the camera's following Patrick Selva in the 6.6 Lexus. Obviously, we have seen Selva's team participate in a few very exciting battles in this first half of the race, and actually gaining quite a bit of time on James Parker here. Looking at the time scores, actually gained about 3 seconds on him in the last lap alone. So the battles will be scattered all the way down the scorecard there, and that will not let up, if I do say so myself. Yeah, we will definitely see those battles keep erupting, and nothing is certain. We have a whole nother 6 hours, a whole nother side of this book that we need to get through, and I cannot wait to see what the end result.
Yeah, a very, very interesting grid that we have today, that's for sure. And I mean, we only have 7 minutes until we have to take over for our beloved Comms Team 1. But they will also do a very, very great job. I will sit there then and watch and listen to Jesse's and George's beautiful voice and Simon's very, very good camera work that he has shown today. So yeah, nothing to be said about for the next 3 hours then, because you will have some very interesting commentators that will cover the race for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course, we're getting ready to hand over to Comms Team 1 within the next 6 minutes, but thank you all very much for the follows and the subs here today on Twitch. I'm glad to inform you all we are just under 10 followers away from 4,000 members in the Redline Motorsport Discord. So if you're not already in the Discord, do head on down there. There is a link below in the panels on Twitch. We're almost at 4,000 members, which would be an incredible achievement. We hit 3,000 just last month, actually, at the start of last month. So it would be an incredible achievement to hit 4,000 members on the Discord in this stream. It would be a great way to celebrate that, to have an incredible 12-hour race. And of course, if you're looking for some sim racing gear, Fanatec is one of our affiliates, and we also have GT Omega as another one of our affiliates. And GT Omega, we even have a discount code for you down below. For Fanatec, we have an affiliate link, so you can support us when you buy some sim racing gear. And of course, don't forget the main sponsor for today's event, the Coach Dave Academy. Whether you're looking for coaching from a professional GT3 driver or just some top-end setups that will really help you compete towards the front, as we've already seen a couple of people here today allude to that, then you can check out the Coach Dave Academy. And of course, we do have a special offer for today's stream, which is that you can use the special code just highlighted above there on the stream, and that will give you a little discount at the Coach Dave Academy, so you can save some money on some pretty amazing setups. But as we come towards the end of our coverage for Comms Team 2, at least for the first stint that we've done, what have you two thought of the racing so far in this coverage?
Yeah, I mean, we already talked a bit about P1 and P2 that will probably lead to a very interesting battle. Then we've got P3, who is a bit further down compared to P2, but that doesn't mean that they are slow. Maybe their other driver can compete for P2 or maybe even P1. Then we also got car number 12 with Benny Benzel in the car currently. And he also has some very fast teammates, which is Vincent Average and Marcus Lawrence, who you heard earlier from. And then we've got in P5 our team that is sponsoring this event, car number 888 with Coach Dave's team. And currently this is Josh Martin driving, but I guess in the next stint we will see probably another stint of James Baldwin, I suppose. And then after that, I guess another stint of David Perel. So interesting stuff for us. And we also got a very feisty James Parker after he got caught up behind another driver before.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little detail as we, pan our imaginary cameras to the sunset, just a little bit of sun peeking through the clouds above our virtual Japan Suzuka race as we are going into the second half of our very exciting 12-hour race today. We will see that nothing is set in stone. Every position is up for grabs. That goes all the way up to pole position. And I cannot wait to see how this ends up, because it might surprise everybody.
Yeah, it might surprise everybody. That's a very good conclusion that you came up to. I mean, we've just seen half of the race, and I am not even exhausted at all after this amazing race. But we still have 6 hours to go through, and the exciting bit, as I just look at the sky, the clouds are going away, I suppose. It's not as thick of a layer of clouds as before, so maybe we don't even see rain today, but we will see the night for sure. That is definitely scheduled for today.
Yeah, and of course, when we come back, when Comms Team 2 returns to take over the coverage, it will be dark by that point. The sun will have truly set, and we will be heading into the dark. As Nick said before, we can only hope for some rain. I'm definitely in the rain camp. I'd love to return to the track when either the rain is just starting or it has well and truly set in. But As we approach the hour, we are going to get ready to hand over back to comms team 1, so that will be Simon, Jesse and George, and of course they did a fantastic job covering the first 3 hours of this race. It's been a pleasure for us to cover the following 3 hours, and of course we will return later on today. Also, a big thank you to Jake Boswell so far today, as he's been a big help to explain why some penalties have been given, and you know who's been in the bad books and who's been in the good books. And of course, we've seen some incredible action out here today as well. So thank you all for the follows. The support is very much appreciated. We've had an amazing amount of people watching here today, and I do hope that. And just as I say that, the 72 BMW gets turned around momentarily before we go to the broadcast switch, so a little bit of steward investigation to go on there, but as we proceed to the broadcast switch now, I hope you've all enjoyed the coverage so far, and Team 1 will be taking over in a moment.